What's up, y'all? Welcome back. Another hangout. Today we're going to talk about respect. We're going to talk about respecting people's time, respecting people's property, respecting people's intellectual property, such as their online material. So, Dave, Hampton,
Yeah.
do you have any ideas for us on respect today?
Well, and yeah, I do. I have a bunch of them. What I want to start with is something like Khalid does, and let's start with just the definition of respect. And this is from Wikipedia. It's respect is a positive feeling of esteem or difference for a person and or other entity. Also, specific actions come of that of esteem. Respect can be a specific feeling or regard the actual qualities of the one respected. So that being the case, today we're going to apply respect in terms of the digital stuff that we deal with, which is our art and the things that we create, and respect around that environment, the things we do to show either the clients that we have or the people we create with that we care and are concerned about what we're doing, so much so that we have a real regard for how it's preserved and how it's maintained and how we protect it too. There's a lot of things going on right now in the creative world that make it very easy for people to take ideas, for people to take credit, for people to just do nefarious things just based on trying to be desperate and get ahead. And so I've witnessed this daily, weekly, in all these different camps that I go to. I witness people with poor hard drive habits, people who just put things on the internet. Or they have photos and things of work they've had, and then all of a sudden somebody else will take credit for the work. They're just a lot of loose things going on that if we don't tie them down now and start to have a discussion now about how are we going to handle just respecting the work that we do, the time that we put in, and what we create, we're not going to have anything to show for it. You can go on with selling songs, and we do these discussions all the time on the 1-2 about, okay, we're doing this song here, we're doing this song, we're doing this artist, and that's good. The end result is that you're trying to build something big. And if you're going to build something big, it's going to be based on a collective body of work, which means many songs, many pieces of content that you're doing. It's not going to just do with one thing. It's going to do with the sum total of everything that you're doing. So you have to implement now a way to act around the digital data and care for the digital data and have respect for what it represents after you're finished. After you're finished, you might think that you did something, but in actuality, it's just a bunch of ones and zeros on a hard drive until such time as it pays off. If you are in this to monetize what you're doing. Now, if you're just into doing this because you just want to be good and have this all, you want to be good in secret, then you will be successful. You'll be good in secret, and this conversation might not be for you. But for the majority of people out there, if you're dealing with data in the digital realm and you're dealing with creativity, content, anything like that, you got to start to take notice not only of what you do, but what other people do, even when you're in collaborative relationships. You guys are writing songs together, doing things together. The person who just up and leaves the studio and doesn't really, well, what was the song in, what state was the song in when you left, or where is it now, who has it, you got to have some kind of rules of engagement involved when you do these things, because if not, you're just going to let everybody run wild, and pretty soon your song might be out there and you don't know, your video might be out there and you don't know, your video might be connected to another song. Something you shot and intended for your artist might be out there on 5 other artists because somebody compromised the files. All because there wasn't taken seriously and there was a lack of respect for the security of that information. And I think that's just an important issue that we have to discussed. And it's not just dealing with files; it also deals with personnel and people. A couple of weeks ago, Mott asked the question, hey, what if you got people here who are talking and saying things outside the group? That's another issue of respect, because if you're in a group setting, you guys are working together, there's certain luxuries that you guys take to be together. If you respect the group setting, then you won't compromise it by having loose lips to sink ships. That's where that expression comes from. You gotta realize who's around and what you really mean to the situation. And I think there's a large part of what happens in our work field today where a lot of things are taken for granted. But what's going on right now is that we're starting to see how desperate the field is. There's a lot of people right now who are desperate to get on base, to participate in funding of any type, or just getting theirs, quote unquote. And so you'll see all kinds of things go on to take digital material that they didn't work on, take credit for things they didn't do, jump in ahead of line of other people, or just basically be in competition in the arena that you all are in, but not based on sweat equity, based on just shucking and jiving and gaming and scheming. And you got to be aware that the more people there are, they're allowed to participate, because technology makes it possible. Means that amongst those people that are allowed to participate, you're going to have some people who are also participating based on stealing. It happens in any community. You can't increase the size of your community without the introduction of the negative element. So part of our discussion, and part of what at least you should be aware of when you got your files and your security and all your stuff is you need to be respectful of not only your time, but respectful and knowledgeable of the fact that there's a thief out there working their tail off to figure out ways to get whatever they can get without working. And if it means your song, your video, so be it. It's their opportunity, and they'll do it, and they won't even ask for forgiveness. They'll just wait to get caught. Some of you might have already run into people who they'll take something that you or your friends have worked on, and they don't think that it can be traced, and all of a sudden, through the magic of scuttlebutt and digital innuendo, it comes across your door that, hey, I heard your stuff somewhere else, and you trail it down and find out somebody has got part of your content, and it is now part of their content. That's what time we're in. It's the Wild West, man. People are doing it first, and then, oh well, if I get caught, so what? Because in fact there are no rules in certain areas, and then nothing enforceable, and so that's a hard thing to deal with when you spend the time working on different things. So that's part of what I want to discuss today. If anybody here has ever dealt with a situation where you've been compromised, or some work that you had has been taken and used in other ways, and then, or you're watching somebody. I know many songwriters that this has happened to. I know guys where they were a songwriting team, and all of a sudden one person went and cut a deal based on team effort, but got totally paid. So the next time they showed up to the studio, the partner who they were writing songs with, who had the majority of the talent, ended up in a conversation in the hallway, because now, unbeknownst to them, the other person had cut a deal, and they were nothing more than hired labor. So, it's a real thing that happens, and people do it. Very famous people have gone through this, because that's part of it. Some people want to make it and be successful at any cost, and that cost is that there is no allegiance. Their allegiance is to their pocket and to what they want to do. So, and it's just a reality. I'm not saying it to say it's right and go, oh, or it's wrong, or I'm just saying to point out that we have to be aware of it, because there's probably some very powerful people who are in powerful places, partly because they unearthed some plans and it worked for them not to work. They wanted to get over on the hard work of others, and some of them have and seemingly do. But the bottom line is that we have to be even more aware of it now, because we're in a digital age, and that means that there's no rules around some of this stuff right now. And that's what we're watching happen when you see different things enforced and talked about. You heard me talk about metadata and some of these other things here. It's not going away. It's not going away. So we're really in a time where everything you do has to have some kind of stamp. At the end result, you're going to have some kind of stamp on it that says this is ours. We created it this day, and it's very important that those things exist. Consequently, you guys think about just even the things that you're involved in. When you've seen situations where you go, wow, what's going on? I'm here, or you walk in and somebody's listening to something you've done and they didn't ask you. Even something as innocent as that. How many of you ever walk into a studio and you're listening to somebody playing back something that's on the computer you were working on? You might have been working in the studio, but they're listening to your session. And they didn't ask you, and your session was closed, and it's a real funny feeling because you don't really want to ask them what you're thinking, but you know what you're thinking, and you got that feeling. So I see Mott shaking his head, so I'll let him go. Obviously, some of these things have happened to you.
Everything you just said.
Yeah.
Even this morning, one of those cats in there right now was playing some stuff, and I'm sitting here like, what the hell is this man doing? Just songs that he shouldn't be hearing. But I started, I didn't want people to open the sessions and be able to hear this and that, so what I thought I was going to be able to do was I bought Liquid Mix, and in order to open the sessions, you had to have this box to run the session, and it wouldn't even open because Liquid Mix was not connected on Pro Tools, and that worked. I never got this. I never figured out how to get the session open without it. So, and I'm a little bit of a computer nerd, so somebody else would have to really know something to get the session to open without Liquid Mix. But that's what I had started doing, because I just had that feeling just now, Dave. Like an hour before we started, I'm in here, or I was out, and I walked by too. I walked in. I'm looking at Harold. Like, Harold, you're not gonna say nothing? Well, it's your song, dog. All right, well, I ain't gonna say nothing if you ain't gonna say nothing. But guys going through the we have bounces, like folders that are hidden. And if you start searching on the computer, I haven't learned how to lock the Mac computer. I haven't, I had to talk to Bill or somebody to see how to lock files on the computer to where when I do a bounce, I should be able to lock a file so you can't get to it. But yeah, one of the cats went to LA and he came back in a very nice car. Had him a place up there, and one of the ladies who was also with one of the other guys, she was with both guys, and she said, yeah, I was at his house and blah, 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 blah. Like, what do you mean you was at his house? He ain't got no house. He ain't got no money. Oh, yes, he does. He has a little condo and blah, like, huh? Oh, well, yeah, he has a deal. With what songs? And his deal was he had to do at least turn in 3 songs a month that they accepted. That they actually accepted. And, yeah, he lost his deal.
Yeah.
We wasn't working on those songs no more.
Yeah, that's and the guys who open up files, honestly, some of them are trying to learn. Straight up, they're if it wasn't your files, it'd be somebody else's. But bottom line is, they're in the studio. They're trying to figure out what to do. They're reverse learning. So the way they learn is to listen to something, and hear the sound, and they're trying to get to the sound. This is just discovery. So you can mark it off as that. The problem is that there's no protocol. Like a sign over the computer says, don't look in files that aren't yours. Don't play back files that aren't yours. Do your own work. That's as simple as that is. So then that way it's not on anybody's thing. But even though if your boy was sitting there, it's your boy's responsibility to have respect for the overall work that if he knows it wasn't this guy's work, hey, why are you listening to that? What's going on? That's also an attitude that's got to be in place too. But you guys have to come to that crossroad and say, well, here's how we're going to handle this, because this is. But trust me, it will happen more and more as long as you leave it a gray, untapped area. If nobody says anything about it, then that means whoever's tracks come up, it's cool when you're working at your place to look at whatever. And then so now the rule is there is no rule until somebody says something, right? Or posts something.
Yeah. You know what's weird to me, Dave, is we've got people who won't say anything, but once everybody leaves, they're throwing tantrums. And then the person comes back and
that's that other thing. That's that, you know, as Puffy would call it, that's bitch assness. So that's not relevant in the real world. And that's, you know, at a certain point you know it's wrong. Why and if everybody there is working hard, why you got to have a special conversation, especially for everybody who knows each other is working hard? You know, your conversation is really for the outsider who doesn't know and steps in front of the gear and takes their liberties at doing whatever. You know, because that's the same person who'll load some hot software in your computer and all of a sudden your system seizes up and you go, well, what happened? I've seen this happen. I've seen people let somebody come create in their environment and they start going online, downloading all kind of scab software and pollute the environment. And all of a sudden they go, man, why you do that? Why? Because nobody said not to. Because nobody said not to. And that's but some people just have to just take it that far because they don't have value for it. Again, they don't have respect for what it takes to have a studio. They're walking in and just figuring, I can do how I got here, which is just hit and miss. You know, I'll just go grab some of this free software from wherever I get. And they don't know, man. They don't know because nobody's ever required them to operate with respect. So it's one of those things. It's a hard conversation to have because when you start looking around, you realize how loose you run your ship. And it's for everybody. It's for everybody. It happens to me. It happens to me. I have people who I work with, they're close to me, and sometimes they do stuff that's just off the map, man. And I'll have guys that I got one cat I gave a shot to. And I said, man, you know, he's a singer, songwriter, really good, and I knew him and his sister for a long time. I said, look, man, I got a job for you. You can work as an intern at this studio. The only thing I ask is that I don't ever want to have to deal with your desire to be an artist or your sister's desire to be an artist. That's something that we all know that you guys do, but I'm not hiring you for that. I'm hiring you to be an assistant engineer. So I just need you to show up, set up the rooms, do this, do this. Got the cat a wage, got the cat the chance to work with people who are named and get this credit on some work. I went to take a lunch. He hadn't been there a week. I come back, his sister's in a room singing for somebody. She don't even work there. And I'm like, okay, man, you can go. You can go. You know, well, man, I just thought I did. Well, no, he figured he was gonna make his own break. See, his thing was like, no, man, I just had a chance, man, and so I'm like, no, you didn't have a chance. I had a conversation with you when you first started. You didn't have a job. You wanted a job. So now you had a job, a wage, and it was in music because you wanted to be in music. It was related to what you want to do. You weren't the primary. You were the subordinate. You were the help. All you had to do is be the help, you get a check, and you get to be in the environment. It wasn't enough. He had to try and shift it and make it something and say, oh, yeah, this is, and no. And it's not your sister's time either. You know, but this is how people do because they just, you can lay it out for them. They just do what they do, man. They do what they do. And they have no compunction. It's not like, you know, so when you say, oh, this is my brother over here, you know what? You walk into, you be walking down the street and you could give somebody an opportunity and they'll follow your instructions more so than your brother sitting next to you who you don't know for how many years, you know, hey, let's do these artists, let's do this, we got to get these songs, let's do this. All I say is don't do this, this, and this. Next thing happens, what happens? You got all these special stories coming in the room. What happened? Well, I just doing what I'm doing, man. But they wasn't following instructions. So you got artists pregnant, you got this happening. You got all this melodrama when originally you guys had a plan just to do stuff. I've seen it happen over and over again, man, because it's just people just being themselves, but then they don't realize they operate in this thing where they ain't got no respect. And so it comes out in these different ways, and it's so crazy because they'll sit and try and talk to you like there's some sense to it, you know. And there's no sense to it other than you just operating for yourself as an individual in a group setting where everybody's trying to achieve something together. And so that's why I always, you know, when we always talk about group settings, I always tell you, man, group settings is very hard, man. It's very hard. It's easy to watch the Three Musketeers and everybody, yeah, all for one and one for all. That's a movie. It's a movie.
That's real.
Real life. People do what they do, and they don't follow the script of the movie. They don't even wear the same outfits like the Three Musketeers. Okay, so understand that's my thing. I've seen some group situations work, but it's after it's after a lot of situations happen where they develop guidelines and they develop rules of operation and prioritization and things where they respect one another, and what the overall goal is not to come taking a crap in the middle of the creative floor, because that's what that does. Like any kind of activity that has nothing to do with doing songs, getting artists out, is basically the equivalent of somebody coming in, taking down their pants and crapping right in the middle of your studio, right? Because the stench is always going to be there from like, oh, here they go with that again. You don't know what's creativity and what's BS, right? And this is what happens. And you know, if I'm talking about anything, Lavati, anybody, if I'm saying anything that offends anybody, I'm just being real, because I've seen this so much. And now that we're in the age of digital files, it's like what happens is the personal melodrama gets so excitable that people lose sight of the fact that, okay, now we got these files that we're dealing with. It's not like the old days where you had everything on tape. Now you got a hard drive, you can just walk with it, right? So get somebody emotional with some digital files, and all of a sudden you got all your stuff that's in jeopardy around this volatile situation. You know, you got to have some kind of prioritization, because things can go left really fast, and you'll find yourself with nothing and nothing to show for it, not only in friends but in content you've been working on. So you got to have enough respect for the battlefield to say, okay, cool, this is our studios where we do this. Here's how we're going to keep our data. And you know, I've been in situations where that was my role. I was responsible for the data. Any guys I hired would come in, they'd engineer, but at the end of the session, everybody's out the room and I'm in the room because I'm responsible for the data. And it's real because it has to be that way. It doesn't, not in every case, but in some of the cases, because you just have people that want that feeling like, I want this to be what happens to this when we're finished, so I can move on to another song. See, that's the way you move on to another song. You secure the song so that the song is away and it will not be coming up until the artist wants to deal with that song or the producer wants to deal with that song. It's not a free-for-all. It's just going to be on the computer, and then we'll bring it up, and that's my secret file. You and your secret file need to go to your secret place. You need to put that thing away. You need to have a way where what you're working on is what you're working on, and at such times as it becomes fodder for the group, then the group can deal with it, but not this thing where everybody's file stays. It's too lax. It's too lax, you know. And again, I don't know how you guys do it. Most of the time in a lot of places we're at, we don't leave the computers online on a hard line. We disconnect. The hard line is only used to communicate if we got to put something up on a server or to update software. Other than that, I don't leave it on. I don't have it doing all kind of air functions and all that. I kind of shut it down and isolate it so that it's inaccessible. It's doing one thing. It's processing music. That's it. I'm not surfing the internet. If somebody want to surf the internet, go outside, use that one. Run limited functions on anything around. And that way you don't have to worry, because now we have all kinds of things that can be streamed and done a bunch of different ways. and it's very easy to lose some features and lose some information because you're busy multitasking your computer. You know, so it's another thing. But you know, you guys speak up and say what goes on your side of the world, Vladdy. I'm sure you got some BS running around on your side of the world.
Oh, I probably shouldn't even start.
No, man, start, man. We need to know that we have a common bond in BS.
Well, just, you know, all you need to do is just multiply, and then multiply what you got, and so yeah, you know, this guy, there's this guy Ronan Chris Murphy. You've probably heard of him. He's a pretty good engineer. I saw what he posted this thing. If your files aren't backed up, consider them lost. So yeah, that's probably a good thing. Just make it a regular, if not automatic. Everything goes on one or two places, and yeah, and when it comes to people, you guys probably know better. Just be with the right people and be clear with everything. So
yeah, back up your files while you're figuring out the right people. Yeah, man, back up your files while you're figuring out the right people.
I flat out, well, I'll put it this way. A USB hard drive was brought to me 6 months ago, and it said, "Ma, take a look at these files." This person that I had in the studio, I met him from Pensado Students, actually. He's from Clovis, from out here. And I was like, wow, that's awful close. And he'd been asking me, could he come in and learn. This dude, I ended up letting him have full access to my computer. He was backing up my songs onto his hard drive. And somebody who was working with him brought me a folder, a little USB 16 gig chip, put it and said, put this into your folder. And I saw, they didn't even have to tell me, I saw my files on this disk. And the file was labeled something like stolen from Mod or something like that. Crazy. So yeah, for anybody who thinks this stuff is not real, yeah, that hit me hard. Dude needs an old-fashioned butt whooping. I say it like that.
Yeah, man, but that makes you think about respecting what you do enough to have some procedures around it.
Yes, and I'm used to procedures too, Dave. Yeah. I'm military. Yeah, so I'm actually used to procedures.
Right. So that makes you doubly upset with yourself because you live in a state of readiness and you wasn't ready.
Exactly. I was like, okay, we're gonna treat this like family. Yeah. It's like, okay, we're gonna treat this like family. Blah blah blah. And yeah, and that's what happened to me.
Well, I think we all go through that because we get lax, especially when you're in. I'll call it like this: when you're in help mode. You know, I go into help mode a lot because I'll stop to help somebody or I'll try and create a way for them. You know, I recently had somebody who I gave some help to, and you know, when they needed to work, I gave them some work. When they needed some help, I gave them some help. And I was working on a job, and one of the guys I work with got a call from his sister, who's a DJ. She works with a lot of artists, and he goes, he goes, well, where are you at? She goes, I'm at this studio, but it's not finished. They're really pissed off at the guy who's building it. And I'm like, so he's going like, well, why are they pissed off? Who built it? He said, oh, some guy that built Neo's room. And he goes, well, that's not cool. He said, I'm sitting here with the guy that built Neo's room, and we're working on the studio right now. So I'm like, yeah, I don't know who that is, you know. Well, it turns out this guy who we had come through and put some fabric on some frames was going around saying that he did the studios that I'd done. And, you know, to say that's a big stretch. If I say, here, hold this nail, here, stretch this fabric, to you actually stayed up and drew this out and sketched this studio and did everything. That's the work I did. That's my intellectual property. But to sit up there and lay claim to it, let alone, and you know, all I could do, because the people were on the other line, they were now fact-checking what he said because he was late. And the girl who was the DJ said, well, I know the guy that did that. My brother works with him, you know. So what ends up happening is that it makes you think. You're going like, wow, this person went so far beyond reality that they're now trying to cash in on something they didn't even fully do. And it's okay with them. It's okay with them. The level of desperation is so hard that it's okay. And that's what I really am in question with at this point. At what point is everybody live in this state of it's cool until I get caught and then I regret getting caught? They don't regret doing it, they regret getting caught. And that's kind of the mentality I think that scares me about where we're at, is that we don't have a society anymore that is regretful when in fact they do something wrong. They are more regretful of the fact that they got caught than they are the fact that they're operating against the flow and that they knowingly make decisions that just are totally disrespectful of everything and everybody around them, and then come back in talking about, hey y'all, when we gonna get going again? Well, let's do that song, man. When we gonna do that studio, Dave? It's like the same person will do that. And it's like, wow, there's a lot of sick people right now, because I think that entertainment, and I posted something today that hopefully you guys will get, and it just is, it actually is kind of related. It's actually a monetary schedule of what it costs to actually get certain artists to perform for you, and it has the breakdown of everybody and what level of cost it is. But it just, I think there's an unrealistic expectation of the monies that are available for everybody, because you've got everybody trying to, at all costs, say that they're in the business, and the business that they end up being in is nowhere near the business that most of us are in. At least the way that everybody's conducting themselves, it doesn't look like the same business. It looks like some bullshit. It looks like some serious, half-ass attempt at, I don't know what you call it. I wouldn't even glorify it and give it the honor of calling it posing, because it's not even posing. It's just really not anything that I've seen, and so that's why I think the respect thing is important. I think the security around your tracks thing is important, because that's where it's all starting. You guys are sitting there in a multimedia place developing imagery, developing all this on your artists. What would happen if you came in tomorrow and 2 cities over, somebody has got 5 artists that are just like your artists with videos that look exactly like yours? How would you feel? How would you feel? It would be pretty shocking, wouldn't it? But this kind of thing happens all the time. So when you think somebody just came over and, hey, we's friends, for every person that jumps on their mot and says they're your friend, for every 10, you got 8 that are cool and 2 that are potential psychotics. And that's not counting you. So, yeah.
But you know what, Dave? What is the penalty if somebody takes a song of mine? There's no real penalty. So it's like if my child does something and I spank them, they feel that. This is why I appreciate Suge Knight and what he was doing. Because if you were to do that to Suge Knight's camp, I understand, But you're
looking at, the Suge Knight thing is that, but I'll let you finish. Go ahead.
I'm just picturing a grown person stealing my file, and I have Suge Knight with me, and Suge Knight handles that. I bet nobody else would want to steal my file. Respect.
But here's the thing. See, you're reversing the thing. You're making Suge Knight look like Robin Hood. First of all, you can't take someone who uses thug tactics to get publishing and strong arm people and put them in the role of lifesaver. All they are is somebody who's using thug and strong arm tactics, okay? So, yeah, it would be nice if there was somebody out there as a expediting service, let's call it, to basically get justice for everybody who's had injustice done on them. But they call that a vigilante in some places. They call it a hitman in other places. But I think the realistic thing is that right now in the environment we're in, There are no rules because it's this young still. It's this young still, and that's why you have a lot of people doing what they're doing. Digital con artists, you know. You had, and some of them don't even mean to be, man. I've seen guys. Look, I've seen guys who are in groups, and they'll take money from somebody. They'll cut a record. They'll say, "Oh yeah, we just need more money." The person will say, "You know what? We just want to get our record mixed." And they say, "Can I just get this thing mixed, man? Can you send this to so and so? He's gonna mix it." So me and a couple other people say, "You know what? Look, send us the files. Let's look at them. We'll help you get it mixed." They send us the wrong files. Do you think they send us the wrong files on accident? Because it's happened 4 or 5 times. They send us the wrong files on purpose. What's the worst thing that happens is when you send somebody the wrong files, and the files they mix end up being better than the crap that you kept on to, because you thought you were going to save the, you know, tricking somebody out their money. You know, there's a lot of situations like this now going on where people are, you know, mixing on, whether it be mixing on the internet or doing any kind of collaborative effort. They're starting out with all the full intention, but then the follow-through on giving somebody satisfaction is just, it's just not there, because everybody's trying to do the exchange for the money, and they don't know how to deliver goods, you know, and that's really where it's at. People will continue to do it. Let me see. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. We got 9 of us online. Of the 9 of us online, we probably all can raise our hand because this stuff has happened to us or somebody we know, right? Everybody just nod your head.
Yep.
Right. So I'm not talking about something as a figment of my imagination because I'm a senile old person in the music business. I'm talking about something that's real because I've witnessed lots of fruits, nuts, and flakes and inconsistent people, personalities, and half-wits that really think they're slick, and I'm watching it more and more in this business. And so all I'm trying to do is just say, you guys, you know, guard yourself and your time and your investment by coming up with some standards and practices that you do yourself. And when you work with other people, then you figure out a way to co-manage the files together if you're in creation together. But you've got to figure out a way to secure your ideas and your content, because it's not going away. It's a real issue. I mean, they have encrypted drives now where you can plug in the drive and you got to have a numeric code you press on it, and it doesn't cost a lot of money. And they've got all kinds of things you have for security measures. You can put a fingerprint ID on it, you know, a bunch of things. But the bottom line is do something so that you're not caught out there. And when you leave a studio, even if it's a studio you know, Mott, leave the studio with all your stuff so that you know your career that you're working on is secure, and it's not left in your homeboy's hands. Because you know what I mean.
Yeah, we're sitting there, and we all of a sudden see we went out to get a soda out the fridge, came back, and you see this file transferring, and dude tried to cover it up with a window. You talked about people downloading. I ended up with a wonderful sound library and viruses on my brand new computer, where the guy was like, well, I wanted to make beats, so I blah blah blah, and he's downloading all these cracks, and I ended up with viruses, and he thought nothing of it, just like what you said. And when I confronted him, he acted like I did something wrong.
Right. Now here's the thing. Now, how do you feel about yourself being a military person, knowing what you know about willingly just downloading? Again, some of these gunshot wounds are self-inflicted. So you got to stop yourself from going. And all I'm doing is say, hey, Mod, don't play with guns. Hey, Mod, leave the bullets over there on the table. Hey, Mod, don't load it. Hey, bang. Okay. So all I'm doing is just laying it out there, and that's not just for you, but it's for everybody. It's one of those things. It's a loaded gun because you're leaving temptation out there for people to take. And you know, if your stuff is worth taking, you know, you might not think, and somebody else might think, well, hey, I've heard his stuff, it's not worth taking. But the bottom line is, it's not the point. It's really about it's yours, and if somebody else takes it, that's your time that they're using as their head start. So that's not fair either. That's not fair. If that guy needs to come up with figure out a way to do beats and do what gets him to ground zero, he needs to figure it out on his own, not take where you're at. You know, I've seen guys who showed up for a deal and they had songs and portrayed themselves as the writer of the song, got the deal, got all the way in and started production, and I was there to support them in the studio. Finished 1 week of production, and I had to call the owners of the label and say, I don't really think these gentlemen wrote this material. Because in the course of a week, all I had seen was excuses and a bunch of other things that all lay open the fact that they weren't familiar with what was going on.
Yep.
You know, and so I'm going like, well, if you wrote this, you should be able to play it. I said every kind of instrument, then, you know, it's a guitar, drum machine, keyboard. Not once did they touch it. It was always, there's a problem with this, there's a problem with that. I'm going like, it can't be this many problems in the studio. At a certain point, I need to hear that song if we're here to work on that song. You can't keep blaming it on the studio, the this, the that, and the vibe, and, you know. But it was always something, you know, and at the end of the day, I was hard-pressed. It took me a lot to report it because what it also meant was that the executive who signed him wasn't paying attention. So, needless to say, he didn't like the fact that I pointed out, but I didn't want to see the company waste money. You know, that's a lot of waste when you sign somebody and your expectation is that they can actually do what they portrayed in a file. And they can't. You just wasted their shot and somebody else's.
They couldn't even program it in. I don't mean like play it in.
Because they didn't do it. They didn't do it. The most they could do is go in and politic and song it and sell it to somebody who was inexperienced. The record exec was inexperienced. He was there because he was a relative of somebody. He was not there because he had a talent for it. So he was there just thinking, oh, this is my new signature. I'm all hot on them. And they were doing the right things in order to convince him everything was cool. But people with experience were easily going, this ain't what they think it is. You know. But again, this is what happens. This is what happens. And I don't know what to say other than, like I said, with you guys, I just say everybody should have this conversation. You should look at the way you save your data. You know, you mentioned Liquid Mix. There's probably a couple other things that could be implemented as well.
But see, that goes right back to what, like when you would tell us, the truth comes out when you put us in a room and tell us to create, you know.
Yeah, because you have to do that, and I'm not doing it to make everybody come clean. I'm doing it because at the end of the day, you guys need to do it because you don't want to waste time trying to have creative conversations with somebody who can't hear what you're saying. You have to be able to have creative conversations with people who can in fact create. So it behooves you of everybody, even yourself, to push yourself, test yourself to do things, and that way when you get with somebody else and they ask you to do something that's out of the range of what you've done, you at least have the confidence enough to try it because you're coming from somewhere, not right. Because your career is based on faking people out and go along to get along till I get in the right spot and then hopefully I'm gonna get paid. You know, but that's one of the philosophies that's in play. So the same way we're all exchanging ideas, talking, learning how to mix, doing it, those things are in play. The same way there probably is a Google Plus going on right now with Slick the Thief and 10 other people trying to figure out how to game on people and their creativity, right? That's how fantastic the web is. So just as you always got this side of the number line that says plus 10, you're going to have the other side of number line that says minus 10. So that's going on too. So all I'm saying is just have an active conversation with yourself and the people around you so that it's cool. Let's hear from some other people. I see we got Andy and David on. Where are you guys calling from?
Hey man, I'm from South Wales. Oh, hang on. I can't hear anything.
Dave, you're muted for some reason.
Oh, is that your studio you're at? Where are you? It looks like you're underneath a bunk bed. Where are you at, man? Andy.
Sorry. Yeah, I turned my speakers on mute somehow. I'm back now. Sorry. I didn't hear any of that. What was the
I
question?
said, it looks like you're underneath the bunk bed, or were you on a ship?
No, it's just my bed.
Oh, okay.
This is my desk is underneath it.
That's cool, man. That's cool. Dave, where are you at?
You're probably going to need to find the way to unmute your microphone, David. Scroll around on your phone app.
Oh, is he on his phone?
Yeah. Well, while we're waiting for David to get that together, going back to what you were saying earlier, what you guys were talking about enforcers, you're not supposed to need an enforcer, because if you have the enforcer, the property is owned by the enforcer.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? You can't enforce against the enforcer. So if you got to bring somebody in order for people to do the right thing, then that person is actually the owner, not you. That's the problem.
Right.
So people are supposed to know off the bat, you know, that there are going to be some kind of consequences and repercussions if they do the wrong thing in your environment. They're not supposed to just be doing whatever they want to do unless there's the threat of their legs getting broken.
Yeah. And then that's no justification. I mean, I think it would be, as much as we maybe would enjoy that for a hot second, at the end of the day, you're trying to just make sure your creativity is secured. And so, you know, and even if you would, at the end of the day, as angry as I could get in my case about somebody laying claim to something that I did and going out there, you know, getting work, the sad part for me was that the client, I had to talk to the client, and the client never had the pleasure of meeting me or doing business with me. But I couldn't intercede and say, well, let me do this, this, and this, because they're still trying to just get through with their bad situation. So I don't want to come in the midst of it. I just need to just say, well, I hope everything works out for you, and when it's all over, if I can help you, let me know. But you know, usually people, when they do things like that, they do so much damage for their own career because they can't stand on their own that it's hard. But, you know, in the songwriting game and in that, it's a tricky one because, you know, they'll go all the way, like Matt said, to where they got a deal, a condo, and another life set up based upon the sweat equity of everybody back in the hut. You know, and who knew that my man was setting up his own private island, but you know, that was his plan, and he was doing his plan up until, not that he regretted any aspect of it, because he didn't think twice. He probably regretted getting caught more than he regretted the decision to say, screw y'all, I'm getting mine. Right?
He has not even apologized, and
No.
our girls have a show with him coming up.
Right. And he still thinks he has something to offer the entertainment world.
Yes.
Right. Meanwhile, back at the ranch, when everybody else looks at him, all you see is what? You just, here come that thief. Lock your stuff up. You got your wallet. and that's a rough one, man. But again, you have to look at and it's interesting to be in close quarters with people like that, because they don't have an idea. They have no there's a word for it. They just they don't have any fear, and they have no remorse. You know, they have no remorse, and that's not really a good quality. But I understand the thing of, yeah, I wish there was somebody I wish there was justice. I wish there was a red button you could press, and the minute that somebody did something, it just, a big fist came out and just socked them like in the cartoons or something. But it's not like that. It's not like that, you know. But
there are people that we stop when they come in. We stop doing music because there's been places where we go places. All of a sudden, whatever they were hearing when we go somewhere else, we hear that being done there. The same
Right, and
thing.
then there's probably about, and again, I've never been down there. I don't know you guys. I'm going to take a guess. There's probably about 3 or 4 guys that when they come to your place, they're coming to drop through, but they're also coming to see what and who you're working on,
Yes.
so that they can craft whatever they're doing somewhere else based upon what's going on there.
There goes.
Exactly.
Now David's feeding back, so let's let him get in before we have to remute him. What's going on, David?
All right, just turned the mic on. The mic was off.
Hey, what's
This is
that?
my this is my first hangout. So you can hear me?
Yeah, welcome. You're gonna need some headphones though, 'cause you're feeding back on us.
Welcome, man.
Headphones? I'm in Boston, 20 minutes south of Boston.
What's
Let
the
me
city?
turn my headset on. I don't know if I might lose you here or not.
No, you should be good.
Echo. Could resist.
Cool. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Is that me or David? Or
I'm learning a hell of a lot in Pasudio's place with the students. I'll tell you that right now.
Very cool, man.
Oh, man, I forget I have my own Facebook page now.
What
I
type
know
of music
For
you
real,
work
for
on?
real. I mean, there's a lot of good information going through there, you know?
Cool.
A lot of good people.
I know this conversation isn't about mixing, but
Can you hear me okay now?
yeah, there's a little delay.
Nah, you're still feeding back. You got some speakers that are on? Turn them off.
Still
Is that
feedback?
it?
Mic check. Mic
Feedback?
check. Yeah, it's just go ahead. We'll work with it for now. Just go ahead.
No, I was just trying to get this straight. I haven't done one before, so I'm not sure exactly how to set it up on my phone. I just put my Bluetooth on. Unless the feedback's coming from my Bluetooth.
shouldn't be.
Probably. But yeah.
You know what I'll do is I'll just plug in some headphones. That might work better.
That'll work.
There, trust me, man. Ain't no call coming in right now.
And Dave, while he's doing that, Dave,
Yeah.
one of the things I learned is when somebody walks in with an Android phone, that
With a
Android phone is a USB hard drive. And when they sit down to do emails, I'm right there with them because they will email off some stuff.
Well, I wouldn't even let anybody email off of my work computer. I mean, I like most of the time when we set up spaces to work, we set up a real a separate channel for everybody to exist on who's coming either with a laptop or some kind of device, and they can sit outside the studio, go wireless, and communicate. It has limited access. We don't. You don't never let anybody get on your production machine and start interneting with the world. Trust me, ain't nothing you doing that important where you got to get it out right now. That you can't just walk around to the back and hook up your hard line when it's time.
Another thing I was going to mention is that when you're talking about people coming to the studio to see who you're working with, they're not just seeing who you're working with, they're listening to who you're working with.
Yeah.
All you gotta do is turn on your phone, put it in your pocket, and walk into the studio, and they got all your music.
Yes.
Yep.
And I've had that happen.
Yeah. And I've been in studios where we collect all those before people go in. So, there's all, and again, these situations exist. Like, in other words, protocol exists at the highest forms of doing this business. Protocols exist so that security is in place. I've worked on tracks where we did not get the session until 5 minutes before the session. And it's a string date with a, 50-piece orchestra. Right? So they're handing out the music, we're setting up the mics, we got no session. Because security, the record company doesn't want it to get leaked, so they're not sending anything out ahead of time. It gets hand delivered or messengered over. So it's to some people it's important enough to create protocols around so that they can guard their release dates and the information that's going on. To other people it's not important, but when you're trying to get in this game and do this game, You need to understand how it operates at the highest levels so that you can take little elements of that and add it to what you do. And then you don't have to, you don't have to have these conversations, and things like that. I'm not saying they don't happen in the real in the higher levels of music, but they happen less and less because the lines are established. The lines are established. This is what this is about. This is what's at stake. So, trust me. All these little things. If you sat and listed all the little things that happen, between everybody in your group, there'd be so many people bounced out in the street for non-music behavior. You would probably be left doing music with 1.5 people.
Definitely.
Okay? Because that's how much non-music activity is going on. And so, again, it comes back to the respect issue. Respect of the time, respect of what you're doing, and respect of the other people who are trying to come in and bump into you when you say, I'm in the music business, you want to do some music.
Can I ask you guys what you think about this situation that's going on with me at the moment?
What's that?
Well, I'm in this band and we're writing a couple of songs. One of the songs we spent 2 days on it, and the other song we spent like 10 days on. So one of the songs has more effort put into it. And when we put the song in the rehearsal room, the one that we've worked on a lot, we get half of the band, the drummer and the bassist, saying, "Oh, but we hate the song, and we just don't like it, and we want to work on this other song," which is also great because both songs are okay. But how do you react to situations like this?
Who did most of the song that took 2 days?
Both of the songs were written mainly by our lead vocal.
Okay.
And so he put the most effort, and I was the supporting role, and the other guys were more of a supporting role, but not so much. So they were not disconnected, but they were more in the back seat.
Is this a writing role, or as in
Who did
part of this band?
Who did most of the song that took 10 days?
Well, it's me and the lead vocal.
So
this
you
is your
guys are
band, right?
doing everything, and they're, when you say you're a group, is it a group where you're equal shares, or are you and the vocalist producing the group?
No, we're a band. We're just an indie band with we're friends.
So when you guys are in the writing mode, what are they contributing?
Well, on this, the big song, right? The drummer that hates the song, he wrote the lead, the hook melody, which is kind of outrageous. So he wrote the most interesting thing in the song. Me and the vocalist, we developed the whole thing up to did demos and all this, and then the drummer that wrote the lead melody says that he hates it.
I would probably, and this is just me, I would probably just, as an individual, I would just have each one of them just say, what would you do to make this song, to make it something that you'd want to deal with? What would you change on the song? If the song is in an early enough phase and you're taking input, if they're just in a role where they're not used to giving input and you guys take the primary, then you're always going to do that. But at least if you guys are playing together and you got some kind of camaraderie, to keep that respect in the air, you should ask them, what would you do to change some of this to make it a song that you'd want to deal with and put more time into?
Yeah.
I'd like to. The song that took you 10 days, which one sounds better, first of all, 10 days or 2 days? Which one?
To be honest, it's a 2-day one.
So no, that sometimes it's like that. So if you go to the 2-day song, and people always like to go to the thing that fits, right? Go to the thing that fits over and over again, and they like to play that. You guys are a band. It gives you, a feeling of accomplishment because it sounds good. Nobody wants to play anything that's going to be a struggle. So Do what you do. Do your normal thing. Get the 2-day song down, but also engage them in a conversation about being more active in changing the 10-day song to something that they can get with. That way they're invested. If they're not invested, they don't have anything to do but stand on the outside and tell you what they don't want to do. That's not a productive conversation to talk about what you're not going to do. You know, I won't play that song. Come on, man, we're a band. That's not one of the songs. Unless you got a song called I don't want to play that song, that ain't what you're supposed to be playing. You're supposed to be playing the songs that you're going to rehearse. You know, sometimes the things that people say, they're saying something else. You know, either they don't want to rehearse, or they don't want to invest in the song, or they don't want to do things that are hard and challenge their musicianship.
Can I ask a question?
I'm not going to have them hate me long distance because I'm speaking to their musicianship, but psychologically it sounds like they're not in touch with their full musicianship, that they don't have the confidence to go to a song that's giving them challenges and make it something that they can seize hold of. Most people I know would do that.
Thank you.
How long has the band been together?
Well, about 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
3 years. I don't know much about bands, but I know putting people in the same room at the same time and coming up with a common guideline on, you know, if it's a band or a group, there has to be some type of structure, some type of organization, a common agreement on what's going to take place as the group as a whole, you know, and also as a group in sessions or rehearsals. To be able to, just because somebody doesn't like a song doesn't mean they shouldn't play it if everybody else agrees it should be played, you know.
Right.
And at the same time, what goes through my mind is, well, maybe that's something to adapt to when some changes should be made, just to get that person to like the song. I mean, I don't know how many bands have that had a successful song and one of the members of the band actually didn't like the song, but he played along anyways and the song was a success. I don't know any of that off the top of my head, but I'm sure those exist.
Yeah, from first-hand experience, I totally agree with Dave and David. Vladdy, I've been in my band for about the same time as you, and learning like group dynamics is so important. And it's a lot like making a band work is a lot like making a relationship work. There has to be compromise. Like me and, cause I'm the frontman in my band, and me and my rhythm guitarist have probably the most differing opinions, and it can cause problems at times. There was one song that he wrote recently that I couldn't stand. It was for my taste, it was too pop punk. But then we talked about it. I told him the things I didn't like, and we sort of found the middle ground, and now it's one of my favourite songs of ours. So a lot of it is just talking about things. You know, if someone
Awesome.
says, yeah, if someone says I don't like that, then question it. Say why. What would you rather do? Which is precisely what Dave and David both said. So from experience, I can say that is the best way to go.
Good point.
As in any group situation.
Yeah, not just bands.
You're important.
While we're talking about these anonymous bands, what are the band names?
You're asking about the thing I'm in?
Yeah, and Andy, after you finish, Bloody.
Yeah, next time we see him, we'll put him on blast. We're gonna come play this song.
Oh man, that's it, man. You should have left it the other way, man.
Well, we're a Bulgarian band. We're called Taking Heat, and yeah, it's not really something big, you know. We're just having fun and good stuff's coming out of the emotion. So
it's the best way.
That's what's up. What about you, Andy? What's your band?
My band's called Static Signals. We're all from back home, and it's a lot of the time it's because I go to uni about 2 hours from home, so in term time it's usually kind of in limbo. So a lot of things take a lot longer than we intended to. But I'm graduating soon, so I mean I can spend a lot more time on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, guys. This is, you know, this is really, really helpful. I've been struggling a lot with it, so I'm gonna let you know after things get solved. But this
Yeah.
is definitely helpful.
That's good, man.
The question I had, Vladdy, was, is there a way to just separate it? Like, I mean, I understand what everybody else is saying about compromise, and I agree with it, but is there a way to say, okay, you and you don't like it, I like it, and this guy likes it, so we're going to keep the song, and you guys go do something else?
Well, it's
Sometimes you
actually,
gotta do that.
That's what I would have done. I would say, hey, you don't want to play it, don't play it.
Yeah, lay out.
Right. Right. I get another one of you, and I get another one of you.
Yeah, do a Godly and Cream and just go form another band.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what, Vladdy? Producer Kui, DJ Wayne, I played him something a year later, and Anna Rams was singing on it, and he said, "Man, who was that on bass? That's dope." And I looked at him. I said, "That's you, dog." He hated what he had done on that because it was an odd beat. I was purposely making odd beats with like a snare that would be off. It would be a trick type snare, triplet type, whatever. And he hated it. And so when he would play to it, he felt off and unsure of himself. It was uneasy. It wasn't his comfort zone. And so even though what he played was dope and everybody in the studio liked it, and he played all this music, he said, "Ma, delete it. I don't want to have anything to do with this." I said, "Okay," and I didn't delete it. To hell with him. We put in all his day's work. I'm not deleting anything. And so then a year later, when I was working up the track, I was doing practice with Anna Rams, it was kick, snare, bass. Live bass he played on the keyboard. And I'm telling you, it's playing in the car, and he's sitting there bobbing his head like, oh, making ugly faces. And it was him who played that. We had some. Those people might step back a year from now and love the song. They may never love it. The Eagles, I think it was it's a bunch of groups. The songs that they hate, a lot of times end up being the songs that are their biggest hits.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just the reality.
Mm-hmm.
well, it's more of a mood thing. It's not the song's that bad. It's just that I don't know. They had something happen while I was away or something. I don't know. It's more.
Are
of a
you
mood.
singing a breakup heart, she cheated on me song, and then they're trying to get them to sing that song? That's brutality. That's torture.
Man, the other thing you can do is change the sequence of the song in the set when you're playing it. Get it over with, or cut the length of it. Edit the song to where the parts in it that you need to get through are there, and then get through the song. Figure out a way to get through it. If it's an integral part of what you do, figure out a way to edit it to make it work. We've made songs shorter. There's songs I've worked on with artists where nobody in the crew, nobody in the band likes the song because it's just so corny, right? But we got to do the song, so you end up editing the song so you just in and out of the song as quick as possible. That's all you can do.
Another thing as well, if you just don't like the way the song flows, but you do like, say, the riffs or the drum beat or bass line, whatever it is, or the hook, chop them up, use them in different songs. If you can't, tweak it to make it work, then completely pull it apart. And I think we've done that a few times. We've like, this song isn't really working, but we really like this riff, so we basically started from scratch just with that as the bass, and then built from it.
Thanks, guys.
That's all right.
Cool.
On the band there, what I hear too is it sounds more friendly than more professional. Like what Bill had said about, well, we can get another one of you and get another one of you. That is like a professional level. I mean, if you're all about being successful and whatnot and going after it hard that way, and whereas if it's a group of friends, well, they're friends, and it's a different circumstance, a different dynamic when you're dealing with friends.
When it comes to working with friends, what do you guys have to say, share your personal experience when it comes to respect while working with friends?
My friends, I totally disrespect them because I'm honest with them. You know what I mean? It comes across that way, but it's not. I mean, I consider myself a producer, and I have people come in, and they have their concept of their song, and when I'm hearing it, I hear my own things come with it, and when they're done doing their stuff, I'll say, hey, do this also. Hey, do this also. And they look at me and they're like, huh? And we'll experiment, and they'll do it. And, sometimes they'll like it and sometimes they won't, but I'll try to gather as much. I like to record everything. I'll have someone do a verse in many different ways, because it just might be a change in the song that's necessary at the particular time, and I don't know.
No, I agree with that.
The only way that I know, I'm sorry, go ahead, Bill.
I agree with that entirely. Basically, if you're just messing around, I'm not saying, Vladdy, that you and your friends are messing around. I'm just saying, if that's what you're doing, then you can do anything you want. But if you're actually trying to get songs done, somebody's got to be the leader. Somebody's got to say, okay, this is going to happen, this is going to happen, this is going to happen. Other than that, you're going to go around in circles and nothing's going to get done. And then on top of that, somebody's got to have the musical taste to say, we're going to do this and not that. So if nobody has that taste, or nobody's been recognized as the musical leader or whatever you want to call it, then and if it's not an issue of you guys are actually trying to do something, like you're trying to make records, or you're trying to sell records, or you're trying to sell t-shirts or merchandise, or you're trying to go on tour, or if you're not trying to do any of that stuff, if basically what you're trying to do is just put something together so you can put it on SoundCloud, and you have a record on SoundCloud and YouTube, and you're happy with that, then you can do whatever you want. But if it's a business situation, it has to be basically what David said. Somebody who knows what they're doing has to run the ship. What were you gonna say, Matt?
When I don't want to disrespect somebody, when I want to make sure that what comes out of my mouth does not disrespect somebody, we have to sit down and decide what the goal is, and then I can simply cater my words towards the goal. Like, if this song is supposed to make you go up in emotion and then cry, and then in the end the scene is supposed to be whatever, did the song do that? So if I could then come and say, hey, the song did not satisfy this right here, nobody, I can actually do that without offending. If we don't lay it out like that, lay out the goal, like with somebody like me, there's no telling how, who I'm going to offend or how, by how strong or how I say things. We have to. It's like without a guideline, we're all going to have all these opinions, and then but anyway, on the respect thing, it's like I try to be real sensitive, and I do a horrible job, but trying not to disrespect somebody when we're doing these songs. That's one of the things I've been working my butt off on, because people shut down. The whole creative environment, people have actually, like, even when if I just suggested that we try something else, I've seen people, from the way that I suggested it, and it might have been a weakness on their part, I don't know, some people, I do think people need to get thicker skin, but I've had people flat out shut down because of what I said to them about suggesting, about changing the song, giving something another shot, and a different shot. And in my brain, if we try a song a certain way, it doesn't hurt to try it a different way. There's no, it's like if Dave Hampton comes in and says, why don't y'all try an acoustical version? To me, I shouldn't lose my mind over that. Hell, let's give it a shot. You never know. But however that's said, if it's not said in a respectful way, whatever that means, because I'm not good at that, people flat out will shut down, or that whole situation could turn into something very unproductive.
But then on the other hand, it cannot go the way you want it to be if you don't tell them directly what you need to be done. And as long as you're the one that's recognized as the authority in the situation,
right,
you just have to give it to them.
Right, and that's a large part. I always say it's not who's in charge, it's how in charge are you. So some people get so doped up on being called the person in charge, they don't realize the person in charge has to have the qualities of leadership in order to be taken seriously. So it doesn't matter what somebody's title is. If they're not relaying to you through how they function, that they got it going on and they can get you from point A to point B, you're not going to follow. You're going to just be wild, you know. And there's no sense in having even saying you're going to have a dialogue and you're going to do it, because there's a whole lot more to being in charge than just he's in charge. A whole lot more. You gotta be able to know the strength and weakness of all your individuals. You got to be able to know who's productive, who isn't, and if you're trying to get productive, if you're in a room of 8 people, you're trying to get productive with 1, you need to know the 2 you can have in there that'll help you get there the best, and the rest turn that day. You got to know how to pick and choose every element that's going on, and at the same time have conversations with people about things that they might be struggling with. You know, that's the difference. Somebody not wanting to do something, if you're the person in charge, they're struggling with it. Okay? It's not that they don't want to do it, because that's unacceptable. They're struggling with it. They're having challenges. Okay? But your acceptance of their challenge and them going, I ain't going to do it. Okay, that's some other shit. That's some other shit, and that ain't the music business I'm in. So you figure out how to rename what you need to rename. You don't have to come down a special road, but it should be conveyed in your actions. You know, what you do will speak so loudly, people can't hear what you're saying. It won't matter if you got a shirt on that says, I'm in charge, respect me. You know, it won't matter, because people will know, hey, you know what, I'm going to try what he said, you know. And that's all it is. It's nothing, you know, you don't have to have, you know you're a difficult personality. You don't have to do any more of a sell on that. You have to just let the other things sink in and figure out everybody around you. And you know how to do what you need to do. There's places where you tenor your words. There's some places where you don't say nothing. You know, and you're an extremist. So as opposed to trying to alter your conversation, you go silent. So that's your characteristic, right? So these are just all things that different people do. If you know that about yourself, then use that to your favor. It's not necessary that people be filling the air with their voice all the time, filling the air with, you know, something profound. You know, sometimes it's not going to be something profound. Sometimes just let's get this shit done. You know. Let's move on to this, because this next part really going to require something. Let's just get through this. And like David said, a good technique is to say, hey, why don't you try this? At the end of them doing what they feel, have them work through some things that you're hearing, and then by doing that, it flips the script and it challenges them. Now they're appreciative of the fact that they've gotten to exercise their idea, then have them exercise the idea that you're hearing, and then move on out of it to the next thing. You come back to it, see which one worked better, you know. And they might even say, "Hey, can I come back and do one more?" Like you were saying, you know, it all ends up working out. But sometimes through the course of interacting with them, you can work out their angst. Sometimes their angst is just because they're not receiving priority attention. You know, instrumentalists go through this shit all the time. You know, they take it for granted because all they do is drums, all they do is this, that's all they are, and they don't try and contribute anymore, and they lay back and let everybody else do the work, because they go, well, fuck it, when we play live, we're the pocket, so we don't have to work, because we work when we play, you know. And it's an attitude that prevails in a lot of folks, not everybody, but I've seen it. So just, you know, try and get them out of bad habits, because some of those bad habits just come as a result of not trying and not pushing themselves. You know, everybody else is pushing themselves because they're hearing some other things. And sometimes when you have especially drums and bass, because they're required to be such an integral part of every song, they're required to have that interplay relationship, there's a tendency for them to want to see everybody else hold it down too, and everybody else work, you know, excuse me, and everybody else work as hard as they're working, because they're in a live play setting. Their work goes, you know, they're pretty much, you know, take it for granted if they're good, you know.
I just wanted to add for the band there, I mean, laying the groundwork for communication itself. is a small thing, but yet a big thing that will generate some bigger results if it flows well, you know. In situations like that, when I was in my early 20s and getting into management and stuff, retail management, not music industry management, I had read a lot of books on people skills and management skills and whatnot, and the dynamics and things involved, and the way to get people to do what you actually want them to do without even really asking them. And that's powerful stuff. I mean, it's totally not related to music, but it's totally related to interaction, which is like the name of the game here, you know?
Mm-hmm. Well, it is related to music because at the end of the day, if you're trying to get somebody to back your ideas and back your art, you want them to be invested enough to be playing what's going to help you get there. So, you know, that's all about that interpersonal communication. I mean, it runs through everything in our life, from going to the market, getting, you know, just smiling and being courteous to everything else. It just you can't get away from it. I mean, we try, because right now we're so plugged into our devices that we don't disengage long enough to really realize we're talking to people, and people make decisions at the other end of some of these situations that we think we run with our apps and our devices. You know, we don't.
You guys aren't just in my computer. You guys are actual people.
Yeah.
Yep. Every day.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Hey, Spence.
I thought this was the Pensado's video game. Shit.
99p on the App Store.
David, I don't know
anybody got anything to add? I don't know. What's going on with you, Andrew?
Mike,
Muted.
Can't hear you.
Can't hear a word from you, Spence.
No, Mike, need a new computer.
Been struggling in audio lately?
That's funny, bro.
There he goes.
Okay.
I was thinking 56K modem.
right. 14.4. Vince, what's going on?
Yeah, I've just been busy in the studio really for like past 2 months. It's good.
Nice. What you working on?
I did a Kickstarter campaign with a band that was for an EP that came out, and then I've just done 3. Well, we started 3 singles with another band.
Nice.
An EP, and yeah, I've got a few things coming through. A lot of indie bands doing EPs and stuff, so it's good. Bought some new mics, bought a new Audient Pre, so yeah.
Very cool. What was the Kickstarter band that you launched?
They're called The Unassisted. They're from Manchester in England. They're a bit kind of modern day New Order kind of vibe. Quite subdued vocals, I think is the term you'd use. But yeah, they've got quite a good following. I'm trying to work with bands that are quite active on social media and stuff. That seems to be the way everything's heading, doesn't it? So the guys who are doing something on social media. So
yep, definitely.
What have you guys been chatting about?
We're talking about respect. You don't respect me, man.
R-E-S-P-E-C-T.
That's all it means to me.
We did a lot of talk about people stealing your social media, you implementing procedures to keep them from taking it, respecting your craft, respecting your work. But the topic today, Bill or Dave chose was respect.
Right. Interesting.
You know, I'm just gonna say, you know, I can only be disrespected if I allow myself to be disrespected as well. You know, I mean that's a big deal to take something personal from someone. In that sense.
Yeah, you get a lot more if you just take someone else's opinion and realize that there is merit to an outside viewpoint, and if you then use that to broaden your awareness, like say you might not have noticed something in one of your songs that someone thinks could be better, and if you take it to heart and think that means your song's bad, then you're not going to get anywhere. But if you take it on board and think, oh well, let's see what we can do, then you could create the best song you've ever written.
And I agree with what David was just saying. Basically, it's kind of funny to me when people think they can disrespect you, but they can't. You know, it's like they can say anything they want, but nobody cares. You know, it's up to you to feel poorly about what they said. And if you don't, because you know who you are and you know who they are, that's, you know, they really can't say anything about you that makes any difference at all.
That's true.
The
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, audio being so little music money is made by people making music. I sit here and I think about it like, okay, we've made say 50 songs, and if you're not making money on 50 of those songs, respect it. I could see people sitting there saying, respect what? There's nothing to respect. There's no money being made. That mentality right there.
Do you think that meant that because you're not making money, that justifies no rules around it?
Oh, me? Oh, hell no.
So
And
do you think
this stuff is worth money, huh?
Right. Do you think that to the people around you, because there's no money being made, do you think that justifies them to act any kind of way?
In their brain, yes.
Really? Wow.
In their head, in some of the people that come through, in their head, absolutely. And
Wow.
but Dave, they have no faith that something that they are going to do, or something that they're doing is going to do anything. Just flat out no faith. And if something does, they're surprised like a deer in the headlight, like what the hell, for real? I see a lot of people like that, and a lot of people are doing this just to get women. Like that's why I quit dealing with just a lot of people. It's you know, doing studio stuff just so that they could get women.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's going to be around, and that will be around forever. That motivation, you know. I just think that in a group setting, it's dangerous because you know, you're bilking somebody or many people out of their time, because you could portray yourself as for the group when actually you're just for self-promotion.
Yes.
And the group is just a means to cast a wider net for your overall goal, which is just self-grandizement and getting some ass. So, you know,
Yep.
I think if you really want to be strong, if your music's really strong, go get ass.
I usually grandize after I get the ass.
Well, exactly.
First things first, right, David?
This place was open to where you could walk in at any time. Now, the significant people have keys, and you don't walk through that door. Because people used to just stop in at any time. Anybody. We're affiliated with so many people, it's crazy. And any of those people could just come in at any time, and that has just ceased. And it was a cease and desist.
Yeah, it has to.
Done with.
It has to. But again, it's an overall thing, and you had to establish some guidelines. And you know, at the basis of it, you got to have some respect, man. At the end of the day, if you made more music than you have got ass, then I guess that's successful. Got more ass than you've made money off your music, then I guess you could be lauded at the bar or whatever. Or go. I hesitate to say Wells Fargo because people don't like when I say it. Go to Wells Fargo and see if they have a line for ass. So then tell them all the conquest you had as a result of your musical endeavors, and see if they give you any money or penny roll or something. I doubt if you get anything for it, but you know, that's really what goes on when you do that. You know, it kind of takes down the group. You know, so I don't know. I just think that you know, overall, I think the biggest thing is just the situations, be they bands, be they production situations, all of them. You got to consider the source. Consider what all people are doing, what role they play. what do they have at stake? How much have they participated, and how much do they just lay back in the cut and let everybody else just do it? And they're kind of waiting for that right time. You know, some people show up game day, and they sit in the stands, and then, you know, at the very last minute when the game looks like it's winning, they'll go change clothes and put on a jersey. You know, they wasn't there to run no plays. They wasn't there running out of the thing. They just there for after it's over. You know, and you know who they are. You know who they are, and you got to deal with that. You're always going to deal with it. There's always going to be primaries, and there's going to be subordinates and other activity, and, you know, that's part of the human condition. You know, I think the bigger part is, like I said, respecting the whole thing enough to say, if I'm going to be involved with any of these different levels of people, we got to have some kind of way to secure what we're doing, so that the looseness of friendship doesn't lose you your creativity through all the stuff that's going on. Because that's what happens. Everybody gets comfortable because they're friends. You know, I got friends, and you know, I got people I work with, and some of the people I work with are my friends, and, you know, a lot of times I just try and keep everything at a explainable distance, so that there's never any confusion. You know, you direct things to where it's at. You know, I'll give you a good example. For years, I would never take kickbacks. And kickbacks are things that people do. Like when I was managing facilities and working with different people, I had guys come up and say, "Hey, man, give me some work, and when they pay me, I'll pay you X percentage of what they pay me." You know, and I'm like, you know, why don't you keep your money, and if I find that somebody here is the right kind of artist, I'll give you a buzz, and then that way it's a lot better, because then your money is your money, but you're matched with an artist that you got the disposition to work with, and that could benefit from your experience. You know, and I would never do it for several reasons, because number one, I never wanted anybody to say that, oh, he did so-and-so because he got something for it. You know, in my mind, I'm already being paid a wage to manage the facility and to run everything. So for me to take money from both sides makes me less than legitimate. It might make me a little bit more pocket change, but it makes me less than legitimate as an authority figure representing who I do. So I can't do what everybody else does, because, you know, it works against you. It works against you in the long run. You know, and you know, but a lot of people in those positions, they would take stuff like that and they would do it, you know, and as a result, you know, it's a lot. I venture to say, if I would have done that, I probably would be better off. I probably would have maybe, but I don't know that necessarily it's the thing for me. But some people are like that. Some people are like that. They can do that, and that's part of their daily thing. They call it paying to play, you know. Oh, it cost you this. You know, they used to have this thing where they would tell people, well, if you want radio is going to cost you an extra $30,000, $40,000, right? And then so you hear everybody unearth their big plan. Well, if I'm going to go radio, I got to do this, and I got to go this. And, you know, you don't have to do anything. You can think of various other undue connections right now that bypass spending $30,000 or $40,000 with radio. And you can get your stuff out and known without doing what people say you have to do. You don't have to do that, you know. But a lot of times, you know, we just get caught in these things where everybody just keeps doing it because they got no respect for setting up their own game and figuring out what the truth is, and going, well, hey, I'm going to operate in this because I think that's going to work for us a lot better. We don't have 30 or 40,000 for radio. And a lot of people don't feel like radio is important. Local radio is probably important. As far as radio, I don't know. You know, it remains to be seen. But I think for the most part, a lot of these old institutions that are being changed, the old ways of thought that are being changed right now and challenged, because you have new up-and-comers who are getting over all different kinds of ways. And it doesn't, usually what happens is the old school person says, if you want to get a hit, you do this. And then everybody runs and does the opposite direction, and they get a hit. So then that automatically that sends that old school person out to the pasture because it's full of crap, you know. And it's great because there's many different roads. There's many different roads. You don't just have to do just one. But the one thing you do have to do through it all is be in touch with who it is that you are and what it is you will and will not allow in and around the creative space that you occupy and in and around your data and your files, or you know. And I'm saying it's so weird that in this day and age our conversation about security ends up with a conversation about files. You know what I mean? I can't remember when I started it, you know. I think, geez, you know, the security was as good as the lock on the studio where we just said, okay, see you tomorrow at 12. We'd be in a session for a week. You lock out the studio and your tapes would be on the machine. You take your tapes off the machine, you put them in the boxes, and next day you come back, you put them out of the boxes, put them on the machine, you start working again. That was the level of security we lived at. Now we have to have all these special conversations and special kinds of things where we address data issues, not just security, but data issues and image issues and copyright issues. Even before a song is done, you've got imagery that you've got. Copyrighted issues, you know. So you're already involved in this multi-level conversation of securing the proof that you actually did something. Before it even gets to where you can put it on a shelf to monetize it, you have to get involved in this validation conversation. You could say, I've been working all night. You know, some of you got on the phone, I've been working a week, I've been working a month. That don't show up in the metadata. Unless you put it in there that you started on that tune and that it's in there. If it ain't in the metadata, it's just some nice you just gave up for free. And if somebody comes and walks with your shit, then all of us know that you stayed up some nights. But if they're doing what these people do nowadays, they're putting their name on it. Shit, man, that's their hard work now. That's their story. You're now wrapped up into somebody's story because they're trying to take credit for what you've done. So, you know, my big thing is just right now, respect what you do as an individual enough to make sure that you get the proper credit for it, and you make sure that you lock it up and secure it after you finish working somewhere. You know, learn enough about not just the DAW, learn enough about data management and securing your data so that when you finish working at a facility that isn't yours, you erase everything that is a remnant of you being at that location. And you erase your file and make it so that it's no longer on the work table. You know. But how many of you do that? How many of you have some data management procedure or ceremony?
Do it all the time.
You do it all the time?
Do it all the time. At the same time, the location I had a couple of years ago, I almost made a sign up that said no electronic devices, you know, like was mentioned earlier. Just right. Particularly for that, call it paranoia or whatever the case may be, I call it security, you know. Anything could be recorded, you know, with any device.
Yeah. No, that's good. How about any of you other guys? Any of you other guys have special things you do?
You do anything, Spence? Mic check. Is he stuck over there? No, he's left.
Do you mean with regards to people not being able to take a recording of when a band's tracking or something like that?
Yeah, just when you finish working, do you have special things you do to secure your assets?
For backup and stuff, I tend to use Gobbler, and I also I use external drives which come home with me. And with regards to people like taking recordings on phones, or even like some of the bands and stuff, or even their friends will bring cameras in, they tend to go for that a lot more because of the social media side of stuff, you know, so they can document, you know, so they're kind of involving the fan base in the documentation of the recording process, because that kind of works quite well. But I don't know, it's a bit strange at the moment, because I found that a lot of people aren't. They're not really giving music away, but they're using it more as like a catalyst to inspire people to like buy other parts of what they're making, as in merchandise, live shows. And stuff like that. So,
okay. So they're using it as a calling card.
yeah. So really, they may be giving rough demos, or we'll do like if a band like this band that have just been in this weekend, for instance, are a kind of a bluesy rock band, but during one of the like bits of downtime when we were just chilling out and having a drink and stuff, like one of the guys jumped on the piano and started playing a piano version of the song that we were actually recording on guitars, and then the lead singer just started singing it and it got vined, and like it's good for that, but obviously, I mean, right. I think it's all right if you, as long as it's when you're in the process of actually doing the record. I think maybe there could be a risk if something got out at the pre-production stage where there's still enough time that someone could maybe exploit it in a different way.
Right.
But I think
that's part of the new model, though, where
yeah,
with a lot of people in the new model, music is the giveaway. So music is the giveaway, but buy my T-shirts, mugs, hats, underwear, and sweatbands, right? And so you give away your music to get people to come to your website so you can sell them all the other things that have your brand and are connected.
Yeah, I think it's a bit of a risky thing at the moment as well, because a lot of people are jumping onto doing it, but they don't know how to monetize the other parts that they think they're attracting people to. So they're doing all that and giving something away, and they've got no return on investment, if you know what I mean, because they're like...
Oh, yeah, exactly. I mean, we watch this in amazement all the time, because it seems like there's a large amount of people who have been sold a ticket on a trip to nowhere. You know, and they're excited about the boat ride. They've got new clothes for the boat ride, and they're going on this boat ride called "I'ma Sell My Shit," right? And they're all waving from the deck, and the boat's pulling off, ain't going nowhere, ain't got enough gas, and you're like, okay, this is an endless cycle they're about to get on. You're forever going to be ordering T-shirts. You know, you're forever going to be, or whatever it is that you're giving away, just to get people to listen to your music. You know, anywhere else that's called a bribe. So, you know, it's interesting how we look at things and justify their existence. But
that's what I need to work on, my bribery skills.
Hey, man, I think it's the accent. The accent is a little too raw.
as long as you remember to call it. You got
that Boston thing, man. They're keeping it real.
As long as you remember to dress it up as like fan involvement.
Yeah, fan involvement.
Yeah, it's cool.
You gotta use 2 of those 75-cent words linked together. Fan involvement. Right.
Yeah. But I mean, that's where the whole. I mean,
you know, I went to the market this morning. Excuse me for cutting you off. I went to the market in the morning to get groceries, and I tried to get the grocery store involvement, but I still had to pay.
I wonder if that'd be a viable defense. I'm
gonna try it tomorrow with the cleaners. When I go to the cleaners, I'm gonna try to get cleaner involvement. I think they're gonna make me pay.
Yeah, it's a strange one. I mean, but I think that's. I mean, a lot of bands are doing. They think they're doing something new, but everybody's doing this new thing. So in actual fact, they're not doing anything above and beyond what everybody else is doing. So, I mean, I've seen it's hard though at the minute, because there's been a bit of a trend in the UK lately where people are putting out like 4 and 5 track EPs instead of an album, because I don't know, it's just a trend, isn't it? Because like,
it's a trend, but you got to realize it started out here with the mixtape. You know, that 4 or 5 song album you're speaking about is nothing more to us than the mixtape. We've always, you know, mixtape would have, 21, 22 songs on it sometimes, depending upon what genre it is. You know, mixtapes can be quite extensive, but it is basically a free form of catch-all. You know, let me just hand this out. It's my little Sonic business card, you know, and then people would get their following vis-a-vis the mixtape. So I think that little, what they're calling a 3/4 song EPK, I think they use the word EPK because it puts a little bit more thought into it. They usually wrap it up in some video imagery, and it's a nice thing to do. But again, what ends up happening is we have this glut of those kinds of pieces of content that have yet to still be seen, because there's so many of them, you know.
Yeah, I've been talking to a few bands lately, and like the guys who I've been working with over the past maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I'm doing a couple of things, and I've said to them, like, if I'm putting myself in the place objectively as a listener, and someone releases an EP, and then another band releases a single, because of the way society is and like fast turnaround of everything, like 4 tracks will only generate as much interest as a single. So it's like, if you could release a single every 3 months, you can record an EP, but don't put it all out together, because like if you've got 4 people in your band and you put a single out, you can get 4 people concentrating on marketing one thing rather than having to market like 4 songs. Do you know what I mean? And it gives you, and then if you've got a bit of a cushion of say 4 songs every 3 months, that's a year's worth of material possibly, and while you're staggering the releases of those, then you can carry on writing and getting, you know, you've always got a bit of a cushion to land on, kind of thing.
You know, you just gave me a great idea there with
10%. I want 10% of it.
the way that you just phrased it. You know, you see a commercial for a movie. What do? They show you the best part of the movie in the commercial. And if you notice on SoundCloud, you can actually have like a whole album as in one song. I think it would be a pretty ideal and very good thing to make little snippets of one song with just the highlights of each song, exactly the way they do it for the movies in the commercial.
Well, that was kind of what iTunes tried to do with that 30-second snippet of song, wasn't it, to get you to buy it? Like when you upload to iTunes, you can highlight 30 seconds of your song as your calling card, your advertisement for that song. It doesn't work very well.
But you know what the winner is? Somebody's going to come up with songs that only are 30 seconds long.
Yeah, well, there was, I don't know if you saw it on Facebook last week, there was a band, I think it was from Holland, I'm not entirely sure, but basically to get paid on Spotify, your song needs to be over 30 seconds for you to earn revenue from the stream. So what they did, they made an album of 10 songs that were complete silence. Each one was 31, 32, 33 seconds long, and then they went on social media and they got their fans to just leave the album on loop overnight. And they generated about $5,000 in royalties from just streaming.
It was 20 grand actually.
Oh, was it?
Wow.
20 grand,
Yeah.
So that's genius. But obviously that loophole will now be closed.
Wow. I wonder if they copyright infringed on John Cage.
Yeah. That'd be an interesting court case if he sued them for silence.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Silence in the courtroom.
I think it's come about because the way society is and because the turnaround of everything. Like if you release a hit record, it can last literally hours or days rather than weeks and months these days, can't it? And the turnaround, people just want something new all the time and they don't know why. And so maybe to do that, maybe it's a good idea, I don't know, but it's worth me doing it with a couple of bands and seeing what happens. You know, if they can push a song for 8 weeks or 6 weeks and then they've got another 3 songs ready to go, when it starts dying off, you can put another one out and have a bit of a push again and see what. I mean, I think the problem is at the minute no one really knows what works because there's so many different options.
You know what you made me just think of was I can't think of the artist's name. She actually just did a Kickstarter a little while ago. I believe she was the singer for the Dresden Dolls. I can't think of her name, but anyways, my I'm sorry?
Is it Amanda Palmer?
Yes. Her whole thing was building up this. She has a great video on YouTube about the whole process of how she became into the Kickstarter, if you ever seen it. And her whole philosophy was literally just the connecting with the people. You know, you were mentioning, you know, how long a hit song can last, you know, hours or a couple of days. You know, but if you have a connection with the people, then you can hang around a little bit longer, and that was what she had learned through her process of making it to the stage of where she was at. You know, she was talking about parts where she literally had people that had downloaded her music for free coming to her shows and giving her an extra $10, like handing her $10 saying, "I'm sorry, I downloaded your record," and things like that. And supposedly she pretty much toured across the country sleeping on people's couches that were offering, whether it was through Facebook or some other website like that, and she ended up like just rolling with it just because she was in that type of mindset, you know.
Yeah, I think she was in. I think she was signed by Warner initially, or she was signed by a major initially anyway.
Correct.
And I think then she got
Yes.
dropped by the major. So obviously
Yep.
that may have helped with the fan base a bit, you know. So when
Yep.
she does go it alone, I mean, it's hard, isn't it, to compare yourself to people who are working at that level sometimes when you're working kind of at the opposite end of the spectrum, popularity-wise, with a band that are genuinely starting out with maybe 200 fans.
Right.
Because it's a strange industry, because I think our industry is the only one where you reference yourself against people who are at the very top level continually. If you were a plumber and you fitted a pipe in someone's house, you wouldn't go on the internet and find the best plumber in the world and then compare your work to that guy. Do you know what I mean? But we do that, don't we? We'll go, oh, but listen to the way CLA mixes this. You know, my snare's crap in comparison, but it's a bit of a weird way we approach it when you think about it.
Yeah, especially since
in a sense, but I mean,
As far as the social media, we have 4 countries right here. You know what I'm saying? And we have different areas of 2 different countries right here, just with this one conversation. So, you know, the same thing you're talking about of people couch surfing and doing shows and blah, blah, blah. You know, it's almost the same thing that we have in this same conversation.
You know, and I think also the spirit is changing a lot. I think probably, you know, the whole mystique of the CLAs and even the Dave Pensados and you know, everybody, we're in a different time right now, and the time that JJP, all these guys, we're in a time where this is their moment, and it's really an extended moment of brand association, if I was to call it anything else. This is the time that they have left in their careers to establish themselves as a brand. Up until this point, the highest point of light in our industry, for lack of a better term, would be Al Schmidt, Phil Ramone. I could name about 3 or 4 other people who have a collective body of work that's so large and works so consistent. Phil's no longer with us, but you know, they don't have to do those things that some of the others are doing. And it doesn't mean it's right or wrong. This is just an observational point. That whole ray of light that's been shined on the role of engineer is changing. It's changing also because we have 4 countries that are represented here, and there's engineers just as consistent all over the globe. You know, I can't say that everything that happens with Western engineering is the thing, and everybody else, they're just not doing engineering. There's engineering going on all over the world. You know, I've worked with Mike Pila. I've worked with plenty of guys from other countries and you know, from Japan, all over the world, and they're brilliant engineers, and they all have their own way of looking at stuff, and they all have their own sound, and their decisions are just as dynamic for the artists that they work with. So I just think that now we're in this time where we've got all this internet connection, we've got all this nonlinear access with the internet chats and the things like that, so that they have a moment in time in branding. So then you're going to have the CLAs who are very profound and say profound things, and they make it look a certain way and portray the industry a certain way. You're going to have the JJPs who are, you know, he has his brand and his his flash appeal, and all those things. You're going to have Dave and his Andy Griffith approach. You're going to have, everybody has a appeal to a certain segment of the audience. Nothing wrong with it. I just think that at this point the audience is getting educated so fast they realize the importance of the role of engineer. They're learning the structure, they're learning the signal flow, they're learning the basics. So you guys are going to market faster with trying being an engineer way quicker than we all did. We all saw something, tried to figure out what it was, and then if there was school, bumped into it. If not, tried to get there by hook or by crook. But you guys are going there a lot sooner, so you're getting a lot of inspiration, and so it's a different time. You're going to see these things come and go because a lot of what happens when you see these, I hesitate to use words like high profile because it's such a misleading thing. I'll say highly publicized. That's probably a better term. Highly publicized, better term, because to say high profile, like I said, the one engineer I would know works consistently is Al Schmidt, and he don't do infomercials, and you don't see him all over the place talking crazy, and he just consistent, okay, and got 26, 27 Grammys to prove it, okay. Real talented person and real great person, but I just think that it's something to be said when he's around before branding was called branding. He was just doing work.
I think for some of the established guys as well, it must be just as scary having now to deal with the social media side of stuff, because that's a new thing for those really well-established, like 30-year career guys. Is they're having to completely change, and getting back to the respect topic as well.
Yeah,
that's something where you're open to a massive lack of respect, like Twitter and stuff, because people don't care what they say to you, regardless of who you are. You know what I mean? And they're having to deal
Twitter is the digital bully.
Yeah, well, they're probably having to deal with people saying things to them that they would never have had to deal with before, because their people would have stopped those people even getting close to them.
Right.
So I think it's as much a learning curve for the established guys with the social media aspects of the business as it is for everyone, really.
Very much so, and even so, also the access. It's one thing when you want to portray an industry and a business and a career as, oh, this is the shit. But then when you get called in the carpet, it's like, okay, let's have a round table and let's ask everybody what you charge. Okay, you're not going to hear anything but crickets, because they're not going to tell you what they charge, because they don't want to say that. They don't want to have those raw conversations that make what they do any more real to what everybody else is trying to do. So there's a lot of things where you got to wrap up the delivery in a mystique, and that's the part where I see that their age and their time in the game has kind of sometimes done them an injustice, because they don't want to share some of those facets. Nobody's asking you to tell them people exactly, but you guys would certainly benefit to know how they get to doing what they do and surviving in an industry like this is. It's nothing but helpful information. In the end of the day, you still got to do great work, but it would help to know some of those business things too. And that's the thing where I see everybody move to brand up so quick. I'm this, I do this way, and and then I see people go, oh, I got all of these things, I got all these plugins. Having all of somebody's plugins doesn't make you them. It just makes you plugins.
There's a lot of people There's a lot of people knocking about with a really good logo and a really good brand who don't actually have a product.
Right.
No product, no music, no nothing.
Yeah, it's very strange.
Yep, and I think it's, but again, we can't knock anybody for involving themselves in the capitalistic system of trying to do what they do, but it's just an observation that we're at such a different place now where you guys can, we can sit and have these chats and talk about anything dealing with the engineering, dealing with music, dealing with content, and we can help each other out with situations halfway around the globe, save each other time. That never was available before, and so sometimes I wish, as as free willing as they are to jump on the side of a box and be on a box, I wish they'd be free willing enough to jump on a call and be on a call, because that would do more for the mystique than a box that somebody may or may not buy on a shelf, because at the end of the day, no two of us are going to hear alike, but it certainly helps if we can just ask you some questions. Nor does everybody have the exploratory budget to go pay X amount of dollars and sit up in a castle and be part of a select few that says, oh, we're going to mix with the masters. And there's nothing against mix with the masters. Great concept for everybody who has the money to participate. I think it's great. Don't write a bunch of letters that I'm a mix with the masters hater. I'm a realist that says there's a lot more people that don't have that kind of cash right now. And if you look at the world economy, that's not going to be the state for a lot of people to be able to afford that in the next 4 years. Okay, so that's just a fact, and that's a fact of the financial masters that Trump's mixing with the motherfucking masters. Excuse my French. And that's the part where I think it's gone a little awry, when we have these things where we create this unattainable level. And it's at the end of the day, that's kind of what started independence, is by saying you can't, right? By saying you can't come, you can't do this, you can't do that, it started somebody else over in another village going, yeah, I'm going to do it anyway, right? And so that's why we have, if you notice, whenever that event comes up now, there's about 4 other events that go on all over the world where you have people accessing professionals in studio environments. So I think that's what's good. What's come from the elitism that people try and build is a sense of just pride of where we're at, just going, well, I'm going to find something that's informative in my area and that's with my budget, and I'm going to go get that. Right. It's just as good. It's just as good. So I think that has spawned on a really healthy thing, in that people are seeking out knowledge themselves. But I think that the dangerous part is when you create this level of elitism where somebody can say, well, I'm going to buy my way to the promised land. And you'll actually have people who, they love the fact that they've spent that money and they've gone there. It's no different than when Pro Tools first started doing certifications. And I used to see people get stopped at the doors of studios with supposed to, are you Pro Tools certified? And the guy fresh out of school would go, I'm Pro Tools certified. And I'm like, wow, you're really on fire, aren't you? I said, well, listen here, I bought my system cash. I'm fucking certified. Okay? So I don't need you to tell me that you're certified. You don't even own a system. I invested enough in myself. I know enough about it where, you know what? If I spend this kind of money, I got to learn. And I don't need that paper. I don't need that, because I already have the other things that are going to make this pay for itself. But a lot of people get caught up in that. I've had the heads of studios on panels, and I've asked them, when somebody's Pro Tools certified, do you look at that before hiring them? And they go, no. We look at them as, can they do the work and can they be trusted? Can they do the work and can they be trusted? That's what gets you hired, not carrying a piece of paper. Doesn't mean don't go to school. It means if you go to school, go with the intent of getting things and tools you can use that you can benefit from. Some of these other things, it's side issues. You can't be a rotten personality and run around with your certification thinking people got to hire you. Yeah.
It's like
guys, thank you for the great talk. I'm gonna go away now. It's because it's kind of late here.
All right,
Vladdy.
See you later, Vladdy.
Take it easy.
Good night, Vladdy.
Good luck.
Great talk as always. Thanks.
Keep us up to date on the band dynamics and everything.
Yep.
Thanks,
Cheers,
Fred.
man.
Anyway, I'm off as well. So, Dave, David, and Mark, nice to finally meet you guys. And the rest of you guys, nice talking to you as always.
Good seeing you, Andy.
So, yeah, respect, guys.
Respect, Andy. But yeah, I saw the same thing happen to me as far as video, because I never bothered getting certifications. It's like you said, I can use it or I can't, and that's it. So I had a situation where I had a client who sucked at video editing, and she went through the whole process of becoming Final Cut
Certified.
Pro certified. Yeah, Final Cut Pro certified. Came back after her certifications, got her certification and everything, still sucked.
There's
Still
a good
hiring me to
saying.
do her videos. What was the point of that? Nothing.
There's a good saying. You can't buy style.
Yeah.
It's very
Yeah.
true.
Yeah.
It's like you were saying before, Dave. It's like the people you should be listening to. Well, you can't even listen to them because they're normally too busy working to be visiting forums and stuff. You should be paying attention to the guys who are working.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess that's why sometimes I probably come off on these things as real serious, because sometimes when people give examples of things or they talk about stuff, at the end of the day, I'm always looking at everything from the aspect of an independent contractor trying to work every day in the craft I chose. And so I'm not looking at it as I'm a mailman, and then when I quit being a mailman, I'm an engineer whenever I can. You know, now don't all the mailmen write in and be saying I talk shit about you, but the bottom line is that my intensity comes from just doing this one thing for every aspect of how I generate what I do for my family. So sometimes when I hear some of these questions and some of the things go on, I'm going like, man, it's so much. People don't realize how much time you don't have to mess around. You really got to be about your business when you say this is what I do. You can't, so that's why sometimes if Maad will tell us about things that are going on with some of the people that are there, or some of the other people tell us about things that are going on, it sounds different to some of us, because we're like, wow, you got time to be in the business that we're in and fuck around too. I mean, I've never had that luxury. I never had that luxury. And so I want to know a little bit about what you do. Maybe I've been doing it all wrong. Because I certainly would like to mess around and have some fun myself, but I just never been afforded that luxury. And so sometimes it comes off as intense, and I don't mean to be that intense, but,
Yeah, but normally you can't do both at the same time. Sit around on a porch gossiping and make it to the Wells Fargo line.
Right, exactly. Nor could I. And usually, for me, I never really talk about, as an independent, I've never talked about anything I'm doing until it's done. Because the environment is so hungry that the minute that you talk about any aspect of what you're doing, you'll have various and sundry calls that'll come at you from everybody in every direction trying to sell you things or trying to get with what's going on, because they want to saddle up to where there's some activity. So there's a lot of rules of engagement when you're a truly independent trying to make your craft pay off every day that need to be adhered to if you're gonna cut through this, man. If you're gonna cut through it. But if you got time, unless you're government funded, unless you slip and fell, or you got some kind of thing going on where you got some kind of alternative means coming in, and then you're independently wealthy and you're blessed. But there ain't nobody like that I know. So you got to really have a strategy about coming out of this thing on top and spending your time wisely, doing, in fact, what it is that you say that you do. And that's the only thing that I wonder sometimes, and just. I think all of us do to some extent, because we've never had that luxury of going that deep into things that never were fruit bearing, And then sometimes too, the rules of engagement just never allowed you to have that much personality in a situation where you were allowed to slack. You were always in a service mode, so you're providing service. You're not trying to be a dramatic individual. That's some shit that's come about from the Kardashian mentality.
I blame Facebook.
Everybody's trying to be a controversial reality star. At the same time, just do what they say they do, but then they trying to get their reality show on. I don't know.
I mean, the other thing is, for some people, there's just no evidence that they work. No evidence. So it's like, Spence comes on and he's like, this is what I've been doing, X, Y, Z. I'm like, oh, what band is that? He's like, oh, that's the Unassisted. So I go, okay, and I Google that, and it's like, oh, there they go on Facebook. You know,
Yeah.
so it's like that's the band. That's the band he's been working with. That's
Yeah.
what he's been doing. You know, we got pictures from the what's the name of the studio, Spence?
Yeah, Project 9.
Project 9. We got pictures from the Project 9 studio. Oh, I just put up my new cloud for the control room. Oh, you know, we have this band in. You know, he brought in a band on one of our hangouts. They were hanging out talking to us about their world tour they're working on. You know what I'm saying? So it's like there is evidence that Spence works.
Right.
But then there's other people, they just want to talk and they just want to say, well, trust me, I work.
Yeah.
Do you
And
know
it's
what?
like you don't have anything on All Music, you don't have anything on Discogs, you don't have anything on your own website, nothing. You're a complete fraud, and that's what it is. People are trying to talk their way into prominence.
I think sometimes as well, though, like people start out with the right intent, but because of the way that it kind of is now, they set themselves a trap where they don't intentionally like mean to mislead people or maybe even look like they're lying, but they'll say, I'm going to do this next week. Like, next week we're going to do this in the studio. And then something will happen, like, stuff happens in real life, like maybe your car breaks. You plan on buying it, like, we're going to get this desk in the studio next week, but then your car breaks, so you have to spend that money on a car, or, you know, you have to sort yourself out of that problem. So then, unfortunately, it looks like they've been lying. I'm not saying that people don't lie, but sometimes they make their path more rough than it needs to be, and it's better. Like, I think it's better to go, here's something I've done, rather than here's something I'm gonna do. Like, here's something I've just finished. Do you know what I mean? Because nobody can
Definitely.
argue that point, because you're like, well, there it is. You can't disagree with me. You can't argue the point. You can't say I haven't done it because there it is. It's a fact. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, because of I blame Facebook a lot and Twitter, because it's like people, you have to be posting something all the time. And if I tweet all the time what I'm doing every day, it's really boring. It's like I'm in the studio mixing again. I'm in the studio mixing again. I'm in the studio mixing again. You know what I mean? But people have to go, oh, I'm doing this next week, or in a month we're doing this, or these guys are coming in, or I'm going to be working with this. I've nearly finished this record. And you never see these things happen, and then you just lose faith. But, I mean, sometimes they don't mean to do it, but they're setting themselves a trap, and it's better. You know, the proof is in the pudding. I always go for the old sayings that my nan used to say. It's like, they're all right. The proof is in the pudding. If it's not there, then, you know.
Yeah. I think what happens now, the proof is in the pudding, but they get to make so many different flavors. Used to be they just got caught by the time the pudding was getting made. Now they get to make a variety of flavors and you know, a container and all that shit. They get off into it, you know. But you know, it's, and again, I think it's also who's to say that that wild way that we observe as, wow, that sure looks crazy to us. Who's to say that isn't going to bear fruit? You know what I'm saying? We can't be so judgmental as to say there's not a collective plan inside of insanity that might end up with a safety. Okay, they might end up picking a fumble and falling and my that happens that game and they win. So you know we can't do that, but we can just observe that goes, hey man, that's a lot of work. That's a lot of work, you know. And that's all it is. I just think there's so many different roads, and that's the part that kind of for a lot of us it sometimes is disenchanting to look at, because you're going like, wow, it'd be so easier to just go the right way, and you know. But then what is the right way? The right way just is the way that we've seen work many times, you know. But all those situations are changing now. We don't. That's everything is kind of turned on its ear, and partially because of independence, partially because of access to the information. Access to the information jumpstarts everybody way before time. You know, back in the day, you know, Maat's sitting there in a room full of film gear. Okay, back in the day, do you know what it would cost for even a Spike Lee to be in a room with that stuff during the time that he did it? And you know, first of all, it's access. that's the biggest thing, man. There's so many things we have access to now so readily, and the times have changed. So a win looks like anything. A win can come wrapped up in a fumble, you know. And so there's parts of it that many of us look at and we don't really look at and see we have much use for it. But put that in another situation and it might be the right gumbo for the day. You know, you never know. And that's, you know, I say that because that, you know, that's kind of like I got that from Khalik. He has that outlook on everything where, you know, you have to look at things from all sides and see the value in it, because there is value in everything, even the things that repulse us. You know, there is some value in it somewhere to somebody. You know, but you just have to kind of to look at the other angles. But you know, like I said, getting back to the topic of respect, I think the biggest thing is to respect everything, even sometimes when it's hard to respect some of the things that don't look right. Respect it enough to stay away from it. You know, if it's not for you, respect it enough to give it distance. You know, if it's something that you know will really bring you down. Respect it enough to say something about it if you see some people messing around with something that might slow them down. You know, respect it enough to be yourself. You know, but not you know, advise but don't interfere. You know,
Respect the grenade when somebody's already pulled a pin.
Exactly, and or play with the loaded gun. You know, I think all those analogies are just right on, because, you know, we've got no way of knowing. Inside of everybody's construct, it works. You know, we've got several different countries, and all of them have different ways in which local things grow to national things, grow to international things, and it all is different. All those different plants of creativity in every country get watered a different way. So when somebody in the U.S. says, "Oh, you got to go radio," you know, somebody over in England, they might be hearing something totally different. You know, there's all these various forms of mid-level conversations going on as everybody independently tries to build up their thing and transition into breaking out and getting their shit heard. You know, so we gotta respect the terrain enough to know that, you know, they might have an idea that works over there, and it might be so good that I could use parts of it here. You know.
What about respecting people's time, such as when you might go and want somebody to do something, you might want them to do a song for you, you might want them to listen to a song for you, you might want them to work with you on a project, but you're not going to respect their time enough to come up with a budget, as if they have nothing better to do but spend time on what you need done.
Mm-hmm. When you say come up with a budget, you mean like you're the engineer, or you're the...
Well, whatever the situation is, engineer or whatever, somebody might just say to you, "Hey, can you listen to my song?" And their song might be 5 minutes long, and then they might request another 5-minute response from you. That's how long it takes you to type it. So now they're basically taking a quarter of an hour of your time, which is billable hours.
Right.
Right. The way they see it is, oh, he had nothing better to do, so I'm just going to ask him. You know, and they're not respecting your time if they're doing that. Same thing with people who, you know, come to people, they say, "Oh, hey, you know, I know that you mix. You know, I have this song. Can you mix it?" It's like, okay, what's the budget? Well, I don't have any money. You're not respecting that person's time.
Oh, big time. Yeah. Not the mix for free shit. No.
That sounds like just a lack of understanding and perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Go on, what about that, David? What about that?
No, I was just saying, from someone's perspective, coming to you, "Hey, I heard you mix. Hey, will you mix this for me, maybe? You know, if you got time." It sounds like they have a lack of perspective of what you're about and doing. You know, in that that level.
So would that be the mixer's fault, or would that be the person who's asking's fault?
The person who's asking's fault sounds to me like they're pretty much unaware of any disrespect at all, as it being a question, I guess.
I mean, there's unaware, but then there's not caring.
I think with a lot of people though, they get excited because it's their song, so they don't even think about.
I guess if you put that much thought into it.
They're like, oh, this is, I'm really excited, I've finished, and this is my
Good
baby,
point.
and I want everybody else to be as excited about it as me, and it never crosses their minds that you might be busy. It's just like, you should be really glad to be working on this because it means a lot to me. And, it's a bit short-sighted, but it's a youth thing as well, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. It is. I think it is a youth thing.
I mean, everybody comes from their own place. I learned that a long time ago, luckily, and everyone has their own perspective on things and goes about life in their own way, and to find the common ground and whatnot on things. So, I mean, usually I find for myself some people in those instances, just for example, I mean, those people would be a person that, say, the roles were reversed. They would say, okay, yeah, maybe I'll check out the mix. Yeah, come on, stop by. It could be just where they're at.
That would mean they're coming from a real selfish place sometimes. Like, oh, I'm going through a selfish phase. Right?
I guess.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. That's a hard one. It's a hard one because at the end of the thing, it's a time that the judgment that somebody makes about how to deal with the time issue is almost the first inclination. That's your first impression that you're leaving. You know what I mean?
Yes.
From the start, when somebody engages you, if they have no intent on reimbursing you for your time, you automatically are coming from a very disrespectful place. I mean, I usually sometimes when I meet with clients, if I feel so inclined, I will just say to them, let's follow these rules so that we don't say things that disrespect one another. In other words, if somebody wants me to build a studio, I'll go, let's have 2 conversations at 2 different times. Today we're going to talk about construction, and next time we get together we'll talk about equipment. Never put in construction and equipment in the same conversation, because that will disrespect the sweat equity of what it takes to get you a facility built. Because now you're trying to lump everything together and infer that because this equipment costs this much, and then I want this room to look like this, that this is what I should spend, and then you're going to try and tell me how to do what I do, and I would never tell you how to write a song. So there's a lot of ways in which you got to try and kind of shut it off at the pass before it happens in order to keep discussing business, keep that alive. Because sometimes people will just say things out of ignorance. They're only concerned about what they want to do, so they usually only speak from the terms of what they want, which is, again, the very selfish, self-centered nature of the business that we're in. It's myopic. The only thing they think about is what's ahead of them, what's in it for me. That being the case, understand the sickness, and at the point where you go, okay, either I want to deal with this and see if there's anything here, or you know what, I think this person is so sick they're beyond help, I don't need to do this. And I've done both. You can choose not to engage sometimes. Choosing not to engage is just as good as giving somebody some direction to someplace else that will help them.
I think
it's a lot of masquerading. A lot of these things are just people are afraid to say they don't know. People are afraid to say they don't know.
a lot of people seem to think that you only ever have one thing going on at once as well. I mean, I always try and have maybe three projects at one time. You know what I mean? Because you always anybody who just has one job lined up is going to go out of business quite quickly.
Thank you. Could you repeat that again? In fact, let's get some T-shirts and put quotes on it.
Yeah, let's make a Facebook group
that
about
again,
it.
Andrew, damn it. You gotta be working on many things.
Yeah. Even not all associated directly with your immediate job as well. Like, I mix a lot, I track a lot, but I mean, the social media side of stuff, you have to address that as a job because you're dedicating that time to it. And if you were to get someone in to do that for you, you're gonna have to pay them.
That's true.
So, you know, when people approach you to do something for them, as long as they understand that it's going fourth on the list because you've already got 3 things on the go at all times, then it's cool. But they don't. They don't. They want it yesterday, and obviously that big record you're working on should wait for you to listen to their demo.
Yeah, they want it yesterday, and they want it for no money.
Yeah, definitely. And they don't want to hear you tell them that some bits of it are wrong after all that as well.
Yeah. Well, cool.
I don't know why we do it to ourselves, guys.
Cool. Anybody else got anything interesting to point out? Are you all looking around you trying to find the disrespectful time wasters?
We haven't heard from Mitchell in a minute. What's going on, Mitchell?
Mitchell's silent.
I'm up in the chat making jokes.
What are you making?
What did you say, Dave? What did you say, Dave?
I said, what are you making jokes about?
Things that should not be mentioned on air.
Oh, okay. I'm just looking at it right now. Okay. Well, does any of what we said today resonate with you? You have an opinion?
I've been dealing with respect issues, but I've gotten through them, and everything went into directions that's cool. The people who were disrespecting me now are cool with me, so I do not want to drop names or situations because everything's resolved.
Drop names and situations, but what was it? Give me a little bit.
Dropped all day, actually.
I mean, just give me a little bit of understanding. I'm not in the know, so I don't know any of these people, but you know.
I was working with, let's say, a not very famous YouTuber, but relatively famous, and he's been getting me jobs with other people who are into the 100,000 to 500,000 subscriber range.
Oh, that's good.
Which is a big number. But he was kind of being sneaky around things because of his own financial situation, that he was trying to sneak people out of profit, like not discussing it with people and then try to keep all sales to himself.
Okay, got you.
And he was also hiding the other people involved from me, so I could not communicate with them because they were so big. I could not directly communicate with them, and he would not give me their emails or phone numbers or anything.
Okay.
So
what did you end up doing to bring clarity to it?
I just talked about it with him. I first tried to do it passively because he redirected an email from the other person to me, and I just replied to everyone. This is a subtle thing. And then people got scared. Oh no, the producer's responding back.
Gotcha.
So we had a big talk about that, but it turned to be in a very, very fruitful relationship, and he's getting me more jobs, and everything is cool.
Are you good at what you do?
People say I am. I hope so.
No, I didn't ask you what people say. I said, are you good at what you do?
Good enough to ask money.
Okay. So just say, yeah, I'm good at what I do.
Own it. Own it.
Own it, man.
Second I do that, I know I've got 15-year-old friends who are better than me, and they'll be like, Mitch, I heard you say that.
Come on, man.
And then I'll be getting
I didn't hear you say it, man.
by 15-year-olds. Nah, I'm not going there.
It's
Well,
not
give
the
me the
size.
15-year-old's number, because I get them some work.
Hey Mitchell, it's not the size of the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog.
Not fighting a dog.
Hashtag deep.
It is, man. Definitely. But that's good. I mean, that's good that you did that, because sometimes you have to do those things to let people know where they stand, regardless of who they are, because you'll get more respect in the future from doing that. And they'll
Yeah,
know-
he also asked me to do an EP and all kinds of things. So.
Exactly, yeah, man. Because they'll respect you more if they know that they can't fuck you about.
But
Yeah.
the fact that he tried to, did that make him change his technique with you, or did that make him change his technique overall?
It's more that he usually handles with kids who make beats, and then he like raps over it. So the dynamic with me is that I'm serious about my craft. So
Yeah.
that's he is not very serious about the music thing because he's semi part-time as a YouTuber, so he is not very experienced in this subject.
Gotcha.
Well, there's a lot of, I mean, it's easy pickings, isn't it? There's a lot of people out there making beats who are desperate just to be used, you know,
Yeah.
so they're being exploited, like, by a lot of people, and it's only them who can do something about that, you know. You just got to look after yourself in that situation.
That's true.
Yeah, the most recent job I got from him with the like really big guy that I mentioned earlier in the chat was because another producer was not responding to messages for some reason, and then he was like, "I need this done in a week. I'll give you like 50% of every sale of everything." I was like, "Okay."
That's good. That's
Very
good.
cool.
So you
Briefly-
didn't get mad. You got everything.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, man, that's good, man. But you know what? That's part of the benefit of being quiet and studying the situation and knowing how much of it you command by virtue of your creative license, you know. And so I think that's an excellent solution, is to be aware of what are you within your rights to do, you know, because you know, I always hear people use the analogies of fights and dogs, and you know, the bigger solution is not to even get in a dog fight at all, but to be able to neutralize any of the things that happen, so that you know, the dog and the fight ain't even a factor, you know.
Yeah.
I think that's brilliant. I think that's brilliant because it just shows that you're more invested in the situation, you know, and you looked inside of it, and at the end of the day, he's got to keep lying to do what he does. You just keep doing you, you know. So
I
that's
wouldn't
good.
say that.
Well, I mean, I don't know this person, so
Nah,
I'm not asking you to call them a liar, but I'm just saying if it made his, and you didn't really answer me, but did he change how he deals with everybody, or did he change how he deals with you? And he probably just
he
changed how he
stopped
deals
dealing
with you.
with everybody, and he is choosing to deal with only me now.
Oh, okay, that's even better. That's even better. That's even better. So that's good. So maybe you did change him to the point where he can't get away with it anymore. You know. So
I'm not
that's
gonna
good.
let him.
No. He's got to up his game, which means he's working overtime. He's on that other website. He's on that other Google chat I was telling you about. Slicker than most. They're probably finished their meeting already. They're watching this one. So
That's homework.
that's it.
Good deal. Got anything else for us, Dave?
No, I'm cool, man. I think I'm there. Hopefully everybody got something from it. I just, this is one that was kind of itching to be talked about. Bill and I have a list of things that
we do.
that we're going to punch through that are all topics that we think will help people in the here and now. But I think also, Mott, if you're still on, you should send everybody a link to Liquid Mix. You know, that's a good piece for people to use as a basic tool if they're in a situation where they've got to kind of share one computer and do stuff. He's still there?
No, I think he's gone. Anybody else got something? Spence, David?
No, I'm cool, man. I jumped in like halfway. I missed quite a lot of the conversation, I think, but I just like jumped in and tried to grasp what the theme was.
Good deal. Good seeing you.
And yeah, it's good to be back.
David, welcome to the Hangouts. Your first time?
Thank you. Yeah, first time. Really good. Really good. Dig it. I appreciate it. You know.
Cool,
I'm trying to figure out what Dave was mentioning about the other countries have different ways to water them plants. I'm trying to figure out what fertilizer they're using over there. That was a good perspective, you know.
These are just my West Coast analogies, man.
It makes total sense that the machine, so to say, you know, would be different in different parts of the country as it is, you know.
Yeah.
What catches here and there and whatnot. I mean, for myself, I can think of clothing when I was little. I was out in California visiting family for a while. You know, I'm on the East Coast, and I'm out on the West Coast, and I bought some, I think at the time was like Jimmy Z shorts, and the language that was being spoken out there, well, I come back here, you know, because I was just visiting, and it took 2 months before the language and the clothes was in the stores. You know, so supposedly it comes from the other side over to California and drifts this way, but that's going back some time, so that was just the way I seen like this current of a wave of whatever it is moving, you know? Wave of culture, I guess the word would be.
Yeah, no, it's we won't be saying wicked out here at any time. You won't hear it.
Yeah, I bet you say pissa.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the best.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had the same movement from New York, David, because I went to school in Boston, but I'm from New York, so Boston was always 6 months behind New York in music, so.
Yeah.
Oh, I see, yeah.
It would migrate north, too, not just east.
Actually, a lot of stuff used to break in the east and move its way west, musically. That was really, back in the day, that was really the trail. It would break in New York and then move its way down south, and then by the time it got to L.A., you know, we would hear it. That's why a lot of the trends would always start in New York.
Now, as far as music goes, that's pretty much, I think music itself is based on the artist's location mostly. I remember, who was it? I was down in Florida, and Pretty Ricky was all over the radio in Florida, and up here in Boston, they had no clue of who he was. He wasn't on the radio up here in Boston. You know, so whatever market is where somebody's blowing up is usually their hometown market first, and then it'll kind of circulate out and around as far as music goes anyways.
Definitely.
Yeah, because I was about to ask you, I vaguely remember what the fuck a Pretty Ricky was. So.
Oh, it was a R&B rap.
I'm sorry, I do remember it. I remember Bad Hair Day. Yeah, I remember him.
That was just something that I thought about. I was surprised.
Are you a Pretty Ricky fan?
I was digging the track.
Go ahead and say it, man.
But then again, but you got to understand, I also I was kind of forced into listening to the New Kids on the Block too, so you got to bear with me.
Yeah. Where'd you say you are? You're in New Bedford?
I'm in Holbrook.
Okay.
I'm like 20 minutes south of Boston. I grew up in Dorchester.
Cool.
Okay. Yeah.
All right, fellas. Yeah, I think that was a good chat as usual.
Cool. All right. Well, we will talk.
If anybody has anything else to say, let's get it in. Otherwise, let's wrap.
All right. Talk to y'all later.
That's a wrap.
I think
nice meeting everybody.
Yes,
nice
sir.
Meeting,
good seeing everybody.
All right.
Peace.
Peace.